following is a special presentation of ESPN on ABC.
You are looking live at the world's most venerated racing venue, where history has long been made and will be honored today as the centennial of the Indianapolis 500 is celebrated. The morning cannon blast awakens the fans and alerts the crews to the task at hand, setting off a frenzy of final preparations for the ultimate race. But the centerpiece of every team are the drivers, larger-than-life personalities who drive for the opportunity this race provides to become a legend with a trip to victory lane. But before we crown another champion, we take a tour around the Speedway, back in time, as veteran actor William Fichtner guides us through the history of this one-of-a-kind race.
The Indianapolis 500, the most iconic race in the history of sports. And today marks the centennial, 100 years of heroes, tradition, and glory. Make no mistake, there is nothing ordinary about this race. This is the gold standard, a symbol for greatness that plays out on a stage like no other. It started with Ray Haroon in the Marmon Wasp. Now, back in 1911, mechanics rode rumble seat with the driver. They were the eyes in the back of their heads. But Ray wasn't just a driver. He was an inventor. Tricked out with the first ever rear view mirror, Ray rode solo. The Wasp takes the checkered flag, and the Indy 500 is born. Today, the greatest spectacle in racing is just that. 500 miles to immortality. Indy is peerless and original. It's not just built on tradition, it invents traditions. I got news for you. In Victory Lane, champagne is a cliche, but milk is Indy. Milk is one of a kind. Now this track, yeah, she's seen it all. The triumph and tragedy. 2.5 miles of power and grace. And she's been known to drum up a curse or two, so don't cross her, because ask any driver. They'll tell you, she's got a say in who wins this thing. The times have changed, but not this place. And the only thing that kept them from racing here was a world war. But, like America, she came back, stronger than ever.
Now stay tuned for the greatest spectacle in racing.
From 1949, it was lights, camera, action. Television launched the 500 into people's homes, and from there, the legend soared with faster cars, edge of your seat, heart pumping. I can't believe that I just saw that. Racing, that would be Mr. A.J. Foyt to you and me. Immortality. In 1969, it was his turn. Godfather of motorsports.
There's the checkered flag.
Mario Andretti.
He's won the Indianapolis 500.
But for every legend who solved this riddle, the stories of those who came up empty are legion. That's the harsh reality of this sport. But without the bitter, the sweet wouldn't be as sweet. In 1985, Danny Sullivan opens up a candy store out of turn 2 and leaves Mario with the bill. One of the sweetest moves ever. A spin and win. Just goes to show in racing, you never know. Just ask Sam Hornish Jr. How close was Marco Andretti? 0.06 of a second. Well, this is what they race for. With victory comes the honor of having your face sculpted into one of the greatest trophies in sports. Legends like Rutherford, John Cox, Fittipaldi, to name a few. But only A.J. Foyt, Al Unser, and Rick Mears claimed the Borg Warner 4 times. Extraordinary. Today, Helio looks to join that fraternity, but he'll be pushed to the brink by those looking to make their own history. Here's the thing, at Indy, you're either first or forgotten. Cruel? Maybe, but such is life. An opportunity missed, a door unopened, a path not chosen. But every year on Memorial Day weekend comes the chance to cross these bricks and live forever. No votes, no politics, no thanks to the Academy. Nothing. Just driver, machine, and the pursuit of immortality.
And that is the goal that has inspired every driver to strap on a helmet for this race, and it is the goal that drives the 33 competitors here today. Today's race, they're not merely racers, but also participants in a day-long tribute to the rich tapestry of traditions that sets this event apart. Hello, everybody. I am Brent Musburger, so proud to be a part of this centennial celebration of the Indy 500. It is a special day, but as is always the case at Indy, behind the spectacle are the compelling storylines, and so many are in play here this year. there is the ongoing pursuit of three-time winner Helio Castroneves to join the elite fraternity of four-time winners of this race. And the defending champion, Dario Franchitti, is determined to stay patient, pick off his contenders one by one as he starts this year's race from a disappointing 9th position. And always with something to prove is the sport's premier female representative, Danica Patrick, as rumors swirl about her future. Will she make that full-time move to NASCAR? The pressure of her to win this race has never been more intense. And this year's first feel-good story unfolded well before the start of the race. The long and winding journeys of owner Sam Schmidt, a quadriplegic, and his veteran driver, Alex Tagliani, have landed them on the pole position for the centennial edition of this great race. The fans have been pouring in at the historic 16th and Georgetown gate since 6 a.m. excited to witness more history in the making. And perhaps it will come for the last man to ride into victory lane. He hails from a sleepy town in Scotland. Coming up, Dario Franchitti takes Chris Conley for a stroll down memory lane. But first, on this special day at Indy, we're reminded that the 500 is not merely a car race around the Speedway, but also a reflection of America's march through time.
Ray Harroun takes the lead in the first Indianapolis 500-mile race. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
A.J. Foyt, winner of the Golden Anniversary 500-mile race.
Peace is a journey of 1,000 miles, and it must be taken one step at a time.
Eagle looking great. Your go.
Liftoff on Apollo 11.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Mario Andretti, winner of the 1969 500-mile race.
We have every right to dream heroic dreams. Those who say that we're in a time when there are no heroes, they just don't know where to look.
The 1986 Indianapolis 500 champion, Bobby Rahal.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
I believe that's the closest finish in Indy history.
You just don't know what Indy means.
I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you.
187 men have done it, never a woman until today. Danica Patrick brings it.
If there is anyone out there who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible, tonight is your answer.
The 2011 Indianapolis 500, a centennial celebration. Coverage brought to you by Honda. See your Honda dealer and discover the great values now being offered. And GoDaddy.com, domains, websites, and everything in between.
And before we kick into all the pre-race festivities on behalf of the whole George family and IndyCar officials all the way around this race.
Welcome back to the 2011 Indianapolis 500, a centennial celebration presented by Honda. Well, it started back in 1936 when the winner, Louis Meyer, gulped down a bottle of buttermilk. Since then, milk has come to mean sweet victory at the Indianapolis 500, one of the best known and best tasting traditions in all the sports. While you might expect a security detail and some fanfare, well, in fact, the sacred milk is brought to the track by what else? A couple of milkmen. Well, there's a man who has twice enjoyed the taste of milk here, the dynamic Dario Franchitti, who starts in the 9th position today. And the reigning champion's love affair with racing began on the narrow streets of a sleepy town in Scotland. Chris Conley helped the reigning champion to rediscover his roots.
It's a certain mentality that Scottish people have. And we're very driven, very focused. As a nation as well, we've got this kind of chip on our shoulder. We've always got, we're trying to prove something.
For Dario Franchitti, this has always been home, Scotland. Yet even amid these vistas from Edinburgh Castle, Franchitti is focused on race day.
As much fun as I'm having and as much as I look out over the castle and see Edinburgh and I'm really enjoying the moment, I've got a job to do.
I can tell when he's gone away, when he's gone to his racing place, it's like he's physically present, but the mind is somewhere else.
He's married to actress and activist Ashley Judd. He is a two-time winner of the Indianapolis 500.
Tune up the bagpipes. Dario Franchitti will win his second Indy 500.
He's a three-time IndyCar Series champ. Yet despite his years in the spotlight, the 38-year-old Franchitti has long been a private man. Ready only now to show the places from his past that made him who he is, like his childhood home in the town of Bathgate.
I remember this was the first place that I actually rode a motorbike.
3 years old, your first taste of a little speed.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure I fell off, but yeah, there was definitely on this hill down here, trying for the land speed record on the way down this this little road here. That was probably the first left-hand corner I ever took.
So right over there, you just take it all the way down?
Yeah, I see that bit, that just kind of triggered a memory there.
The real racing began here, the West of Scotland Kart Club, where Dario learned the physical and mental sides of racing.
This is where it all started, and this is definitely home. This is, you know, as a boy, this was my Indianapolis as a kid. This is a place that I first drove a kart for the first time. I won my first race that day.
How big was the trophy they gave you for that one?
The trophy for the first win is about this big, and it's the only trophy in my office. The feel that I have in an IndyCar today and the way I like to set the car up and the feeling I like from the car all comes from what started here. Learning how to pass, to set up a pass, driving in the rain. God, we used to drive in the rain quite a lot here.
Is that right? So your win at Indy, that had its roots in the Scottish rain on this track?
The weather's not like this every day, you know, Chris.
Encouraged by his son's progress, Franchitti's father, George, mortgaged the family home to fund young Dario's racing dreams. The bold gamble paid off, By 1997, Dario was open-wheel racing in the U.S. He met Ashley Judd in 1999. 2 years later, they were married.
I'm very lucky in the fact that when Ashley has the time, and she makes a lot of time to come and support me in what I do, I'm very lucky in that way that she does that.
I absolutely know that I have a parking spot in my husband's heart that is just for me. It always will be. And I know that there are some other parking spots in there, and they are filled with cars.
At the 2007 Indy 500, Franchitti found himself in a seesaw battle on the track until a rain delay left him well back.
I think I was 14th. How the hell am I going to get back up there?
The cars queued up, and it was about time to go back out, and I just leaned over, and I said, go pick them off one by one, like the gentleman racer you are. And that's exactly what he did.
Dario Franchitti right now on the march through the field.
I'm driving this thing in the rain, and it's slipping and sliding, and I'm like, just keep going here. And sure enough, here comes the checker. It was an amazing feeling. Ashley was doing her Usain Bolt impression down the pit lane there. To me, that's the special part about winning the Indy 500 is pulling in to victory circle. You see your team and my friends and my family. See my dad's face, man. Wow. You could tell he was just so happy and so proud. And his glasses were all fogged over because it was raining.
At the 2010 500, the Scot they called Dario Speedwagon couldn't be caught, taking the lead right from the start and never letting go.
People say you can't win it on the first lap or the first corner. We did last year. We took off. Does that happen a lot? Hopefully it happens this year.
Whatever happens, he'll have Scotland, where his roots remain deep.
This is home. I also think it's the most beautiful part of the world. I find it quite easy to focus here and look ahead and what I'm going to have to do. I do that with any race, but obviously especially Indy.
Well, Franchitti is one of 5 past champions in today's field, and also in that group is Dario's teammate, the man many consider a favorite to win it again this year, 2008 champion Scott Dixon. Jamie Little is with the New Zealand driver who will be starting from the front row.
That's right, he'll start second in the middle of that front row. And Scott, you were fastest in final practice, and that shows you have speed. But what other indicators say this is a race-winning car?
Well, it's a difficult one, you know. Obviously, you got to get everything right, and a lot of that emphasis goes onto the team, you know, the driver, everybody that's involved. You know, so much pressure on this one big day, and you know, both target cars, I think, have got a great shot at winning today. It's so fantastic to see so many fans here this week, and this past 2 or 3 weeks has just been pumped up. It's fantastic. It's back to how Indy should be. I'm just proud to be in the 100th Centennial.
And the last time Scott Dixon started on the front row, he won. Brent?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Jamie. And coming up, Indy rookie Charlie Kimball faces a challenge beyond the intense demands of this grueling race. He drives with a life-threatening disease. Plus the inspiring story of owner Sam Schmidt and pole winner Alex Tagliani in their own words when we continue live from Indy. And if you think those animated cars and Cars 2 can fly around a track, wait until you see what Team Hot Wheels has in store. They attempt to break the world record 4-wheel vehicle distance jump when Izod presents Hot Wheels Fearless at the 500. Coming your way at 3:30 Eastern on ABC. Well, welcome back to Indianapolis, everybody. I'm Brent Musburger. You know, a rookie for the Chip Ganassi team, Charlie Kimball, starts in the 28th position for his first Indy 500. He's the only driver ever with insulin on his checklist. But with some help from modern know-how, he's able to compete at top speed, worry-free.
They say a tool is an extension of a hand. My car is an extension of my body. I am truly the ultimate machine. My name is Charlie Kimball. When I was diagnosed with diabetes, I was afraid it was going to be taken away from me. I didn't know how it was going to work for me as a racing driver. I couldn't find a precedent, and I wasn't willing to give up, but I had to figure out and find tools to make it work for me. And In the race car, I have a continuous glucose monitor, and it reads my blood glucose from a sensor on my body. There's a wire injected and a wireless transmitter on top of my skin. It transmits a reading to the pager-like display that I Velcro on the steering wheel. If that shows my blood glucose numbers going low, I've got a drink bottle mounted in the car. I fill it with some glucose-rich fluid. The tube runs right into my helmet. I can suck on that drink tube, bring my sugars up, and I don't have to slow down. The worst case scenario is I can't correct my falling blood sugar with the drink bottle alone. And during a pit stop, if need be, the team members can give me a shot to make sure that my blood sugar comes back up. I would get tires, fuel, and a shot and make sure I'm good to go. I'm not racing just for me anymore. I've got a whole community of support behind me. If it's the diabetes community or people overcoming other challenges, that's the hope I give people.
Well, Charlie, we've just shown everyone the high-tech system you'll use today to monitor and maintain your blood sugar. Now, from you, what do you consider to be the biggest risk in this whole process?
Well, the biggest risk is the unknown. We don't know how the temperature, the 200 laps, 500 miles is going to affect my blood sugar. So we've had to work extra hard to make sure I'm ready.
Okay, worst case scenario, your doctor in the pits has told me if she sees numbers she doesn't like, she could ask you to pull it in and park it. How would you respond?
Well, I believe in her more than anything else, you know, and if she said it wasn't safe for me and the other drivers, I'd listen to her. Having said that, I know we've prepared, and I think that's a very, very small possibility.
Glad to have you here. Good luck today.
Thank you.
Folks, for an insulin-dependent diabetic like Charlie Kimball, just starting this race today is a victory. Blimp?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Doc. And meanwhile, here are two men named Alex and Sam, but you can call both of them David, as they took on the Goliaths of the sport to capture the pole position last weekend. Alex Tagliani, the driver, is an open-wheel journeyman, if you will, and Sam Schmidt, the owner, is a former driver who was paralyzed in a crash in 2000, and both have long held on to a dream.
If you think about the danger in the sport, you'd never do it to start with, and or you'd never be any good at it. So this has been my lifelong dream, to compete at this row of bricks. And when the accident happened, it was never consideration to sit at home and watch TV all day. I'm still young, and I still believe in my heart that there's a cure for this type of injury.
Since Sam came on board the team, I think it brought my appreciation to what I do to a much deeper level. We went through a lot of challenges and we went through a lot of difficulties to build this team together, but it's just, it makes you forget about it, and it's nothing like what Sam had to go through.
I came into being an owner so naive, 10 years ago. You look at some of the people and you say, hey, that looks easy, I can do that, but it's been really challenging. I mean, it comes down to the people. It comes down to the right nucleus of people.
It's the perfect group with the perfect guy in front, and I think that's why we have this chemistry.
It's easy to say now in hindsight, but for the first day of practice when the car unloaded, it was fast. It was really fast.
We knew we had a strong car, but like you said, we didn't know that the car was going to be on the pole. We knew that we had a shot at it.
You'll see the checkered flag, and I believe he's done it. The big two have been unseated at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It won't be a Penske, it won't be a Ganassi on pole. Instead, it will be Sam Schmidt Motorsports and Alex Tagliani.
Buddy, so happy for you. Great.
It doesn't do much for my heart rate, but it was, looking back, as a fan, it had to be incredible, and I know it was absolutely incredible for us, but I couldn't stand to watch his run on the monitor. I just put my head down and listened to the crowd every lap, and when I heard the crowd, I knew we had it.
For me, it's the proudest moment, in my racing career. You believed, and you brought this group together. You inspired us. You're a great leader.
I'm out here competing. I want to win the Indianapolis 500, but I mean, the number of texts and emails that I've gotten in the last 3 or 4 days from people with disabilities saying, you're living your dream. You're such an inspiration. I've got to fight to live our dream. I mean, that's a very big part of it.
I'm proud to drive for a much bigger cause and to represent the foundation every time I go out. And this taught me that I mean, we can achieve anything, and I want it so bad. I mean, there's no word to explain how much I want to bring this race to you.
That's pretty cool up there, isn't it?
I look at that board, I get goosebumps.
And in keeping with the long shot theme, here is today's ESPN Sports Nation poll. Which of the following drivers will finish the highest in the Indianapolis 500? Danica, Marco Andretti, Tags, or Tony Kanaan? So log on to ESPN.com and you can vote. Well, there's a great celebration that has gone on all weekend here at the Indy 500. The crowds have been enormous. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There, of course, one of the great legends, Marco Andretti. You know, and the only man who can join the four-time winners is Helio Castroneves, and he longs to join those legends atop the Indy Plateau.
Indianapolis 500. Winning it, to do it once, it's make you an overnight sensation. Twice, maybe you're lucky. The third time's a charm.
He becomes a three-time winner of the biggest race in the world.
But to do it fourth time earns your place in history and a fraternity amongst legends. It's been 100 years that only 3 drivers were able to win 4 times at Indianapolis 500.
The checkered flag is out. A.J. Foyt has won his 4th 500.
Everybody, when they mention Indianapolis 500, automatically you kind of like remind about A.J. Foyt, and the guy is a legend.
Alonso, winner, Indianapolis 500-mile race.
Alonso Sr., it's amazing what he was able to accomplish. The oldest one to win an Indianapolis 500, the 4th one.
Rick Mears, he will become the 3rd 4-time winner of the Indianapolis 500.
Rick Mears, wow, he is my hero. For me, Rick, it's an example of a driver. Those guys back then, it was such a different era. You were able to drive different cars. These days, it changed so much. For me, it would be an honor to join the elite group. It would be a dream come true.
Welcome back, everyone, to the world's most famous motor speedway, where we await the start of the centennial edition of the Indy 500. Fans are ready for what will likely be the only birthday party ever to feature cars traveling in excess of 220 miles an hour. Let's go to Dave Calabro for the driver introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the honorary members of today's starting field. Driver of the IZOD 2-seater race car, the legendary name Mario Andretti. Riding along in IZOD's fastest seat in sports, U.S. Army retired Sergeant Latsine Benson, who was wounded serving his country in Iraq. And now let's set the field for the running of the Centennial Indianapolis 500-mile race. Starting 33rd, 2008 Rookie of the Year, Ryan Hunter-Reay. In the middle of the 11th row, making her second start from Brazil, Ana Beatriz. Inside row 11, one of her record-tying 4 women in the race. Ladies and gentlemen, Pippa Mann. Row 10, starting 13th, last year's 4th place finisher from England, Alex Lloyd. Starting 29th on the 25th anniversary of his father's win in this race, Graham Rahal. Inside row 10, one of 5 rookies in the field, Charlie Kimball. Starting 27th, representing the 3rd generation of Andretti's to compete in this race, Marco Andretti. In an unfamiliar position for a Penske driver. In the 26th starting position, Ryan Briscoe. Inside row 9, making her 7th Indianapolis 500 start, Danica Patrick. Eighth row, starting 24th from Ontario, Canada, the veteran Paul Tracy. In the middle of row 8, last year's Rookie of the Year, Simona Di Silvestro. Making his 10th 500 start, this time from inside row number 8, always popular Tony Kanai. Outside row 7, the 2002 Rookie of the Year, Thomas Scheckter. In the middle of row 7, from England, rookie Jay Howard. Starting alongside Jay's fellow countryman is Justin Wilson. Row 6, starting 18th from Venezuela, EJ Viso. In the middle of row 6, the most experienced Indianapolis 500 driver in the field today, John Andretti. Starting 16th, welcome the 3-time winner, Helio Castroneves. Outside row 5, making his 11th 500 start, Idaho's Davey Hamilton. Starting 14th, Belgium's Bertrand Baguette. And inside row 5, rookie James Hinchcliffe. Outside row 4, yet another rookie in the field, JR Hildebrand. Starting 11th, driving on the 50th anniversary of that first win for his owner, AJ Foyt, it's Vitor Mira. In the 10th starting position, Tokyo's Takuma Sato. Outside row number 3, the 2-time winner, defending champion, Dario Franchitti. And next to Dario, from right here in Indianapolis, it's Ed Carpenter. Inside row 3, 2004 winner, Buddy Rice. Outside row number 2, he won this race in 2005. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Wheldon. Starting 5th from Australia, Will Power. On the inside of row number 2, the American with the highest starting position, California's Townsend Bell. And on the front row, on the outside, Spain's Oriol Serbia. In the middle of the front row, 2008 champion from New Zealand, Scott Dixon. And on the pole, driving for Sam Schmidt Motorsports, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Tagliani. Here they are, the 33 drivers for the 100th anniversary of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Let's salute the field.
And we might add the daring 33. But you know, whatever day it's on, this race is never a party. As the past champions know, it's a pedal to the metal test of character and courage. To win this race, you must resist the impulse to lift up on the accelerator.
The only time you use the brakes at Indianapolis are coming into the pit lane and stopping in your pit box. Everywhere else, your left foot's just along for the ride.
The trick here is being able to run as close to another car and not lift off the gas.
When you're out front, you have to be mashing the gas big time. The air's a lot cleaner, you got a lot more downforce, so it is easier to go flat out front.
You gotta be really careful because your foot doesn't have a brain. If you get an itchy feet and you wanna go flat out all the time, you might get caught for a big surprise.
My first year here, 2002, I probably had about a 9-10 second lead. I had about 25 laps to go, and I was virtually flat out the whole time and ended up in the wall in turn 4.
In 07 Monday morning quarterback, I should have lifted. I thought it was clear at the time, and I moved that extra inch, and Wheldon was sitting right there.
Well, oh no, another crash, and it's upside down. It's Marco Andretti.
Sometimes the closing rate is quicker than you think. Unfortunately, that's what happened to Conway last year.
Oh, we've got a crash! Oh, wicked crash!
Oddly enough, there's not that many laps during the race that you're flat.
It's so long. It's about 3 hours of racing. You not always go flat out. In fact, you gotta lift a little bit.
If that car doesn't feel good going into one, you're gonna lift. Your body will do what it needs to do.
Your mind sometimes is telling you lift, lift, lift. You've got to keep your foot down.
Sometimes you've got to put your left foot over your right foot, hold it there to make sure that old foot's not shaking there in the middle of the corner because you're a little bit scared.
Since we were little kids in go-karts, that's all we tried to do, not to lift. So every time you come here to Indianapolis and you have to lift, it's a little bit of disappointment.
When it comes down to the last 20 laps, that's game time. You need to make passes, you got to stay flat, you got to keep the pressure on the guys in front.
This race is about patience and then being smart when it's time to go. It's not just about being fast. I mean, how many guys being very fast and never won this race? I'm one of them, so trying to learn.
Folks, look at how far and how fast they've come here. The winner's average speed in that first race 100 years ago, 74 miles per hour. 85 years later, 1996, the fastest car reached 237 miles an hour, still a record at the Speedway. And with the science of speed in mind, we head over to the Craftsman Tech Garage, where Eddie Cheever and Scott Goodyear take a look at the first car to take the checkered flag at Indy.
And Brent, the cars have changed dramatically over the years. Cars today are capable of speeds of over 240 miles an hour. This Marmon Wasp, which won in 1911, average race speed 74.6 miles per hour. And the cars back then were built for two people, for a riding mechanic. And as we can see with Eddie Cheever in the seat, this car was built for one driver, Ray Haroon. And that made the car very narrow and very aerodynamic coming towards the back of the car. It was more of a slipstream. Aerodynamics were in play back in 1911. And the 34-inch Firestone tires were mounted on these rims, and you had to actually change the tire with the rim still on the car. And Eddie, safety back in 1911 left a little bit to be desired.
I don't know if I would use the word safety when I'm describing this car. I have no seatbelts, I have no rollover cage, and worst of all, between me and 20 gallons of highly explosive gasoline is a very thin sheet of metal. I would say that having a big accident in this car is like going over Niagara Falls in a barrel.
Actually probably helps answer the question that we debated for years. Who are the braver drivers? Drivers back then or drivers today? My vote gets 100 years ago.
Thank you, Scott. And there is Dick Haroon, the 96-year-old son of the first winner, and I'll talk to him a little bit later during the 500. And still to come, the courage of Simona Di Silvestro. She endured severe pain to qualify for today's race. Plus a look at Danica Patrick, a woman of many faces, but one passion, when we return to the 500 right after this.
The 2011 Indianapolis 500, a centennial celebration. Coverage brought to you by Honda. See your Honda dealer and discover the great values now being offered.
We are less than 30 minutes away from going green here at Indy. There are so many stories this year, but this one's about courage. Simona Di Silvestro is down below with our Rick DeBrule. Let's go to Rick.
you were in an accident right before qualifying. Your hands were burned. Where did you find the courage to get back in the car and qualify?
Well, the biggest courage was, I think, the fans out here at IMS and also my team and my sponsor, Entergy, to really support me through this tough phase. And I'm really thankful to be with people like that are supporting me.
And she's been a big crowd favorite. I tell you, just asked her about the hands, how they feel. She says so-so, but she'll forget that.
Rick, thank you very much. There are 4 women from different countries in today's race, but the sport's best-known trailblazer remains Danica Patrick. She's the only woman ever to lead at Indy. She's very protective of her public image, but beneath all the symbolism, at the core, she's a car racer.
I just think it's something that's always a bit interesting to people. To find an athlete and a pretty girl at the same time.
I can feel a phoenix inside of me as I march alone to a different beat.
I'm lucky enough people want to put me on TV, and I'm part of a lot of interviews and broadcasts, and people must be curious because I don't always do well.
This test is my own cross to bear, but I will get there.
At the track, I'm definitely tough and aggressive and serious. I'm not trying to be anything. I'm just trying to get my job done.
I can see the heavens, but I still hear the flames calling out my name.
Well, 2010, Indianapolis was a tough year. The worst position that I qualified in, which was last year, was the hardest it's ever been for me to go around here. So, I came in from qualifying and I'm shaking afterwards because there's just so much adrenaline. I get really nervous. So, I come in and sure enough, there's a camera there and they ask you questions, and I got defensive and I blamed. It's not my fault. This car is not good. I almost was trying to do it to boost my own confidence because I went out there and didn't do well. I think it was absolutely awful. I feel bad to let fans down. I became something that they didn't think I was, but I did it, so it must be me, right? I understand, and I got smarter because of it, stronger because of it, and I was saying at the beginning of this month that it feels really good to be walking down pit lane and having people cheer for me. The Indianapolis 500 is its own event. It is the most important beyond anything. I have people that ask me, do you do anything other than the Indy 500? Do you race any other races? Because that's all they know of. It's like instant legend when you win this race. It doesn't have anything to do with where I go or what I do, but always knowing that it is, to me, the biggest race in the world.
There's long been speculation and even media reports this week about Danica Patrick's potential move to NASCAR, but in many ways it's been this racetrack and this race, the Indianapolis 500, that has provided the defining moments in her racing career. Danica, can you imagine not running the Indianapolis 500?
Not today for sure, and probably not ever. This is the greatest race in the world to me. It's what I've always dreamt of from a little girl. There's clips of me at 14 years old on a TV show saying the only thing missing from this room is the Indianapolis 500 trophy, and I think that's how I'll always feel. So I'm just hoping that the GoDaddy car is solid. The conditions are quite different, but I think we have the possibility of having a great day.
You're just moments away from getting into the car. Do you feel anticipation or nervousness?
I think I just want to get going because then my nervousness goes away, but at this point it's just nervous. I was asking my husband, why do I feel like this? What's happening with me? Why do I feel like I don't want to eat? And he said, like the old days when you go into battle, you don't want to be hungry, so we're going into battle.
Go get them. Danica Patrick. Brent, she starts 25th today.
All right, Vince, thank you very much. Well, on this special holiday, we have a very special national anthem befitting the occasion. We'll return to Indy after this.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick, and you're watching History in the Making, the 100th anniversary of the Indianapolis 500. Telecast is presented by GoDaddy.com on ABC.
We welcome you back to the 2011 Indianapolis 500, a centennial celebration presented by Honda. The color guard, under the direction of the Indiana National Guard, but representing all branches of the armed forces, presenting the colors. Now to introduce the singing of the national anthem, let's go back to the PA announcer, Dave Calabro.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remove your hats as Grammy Award-winning artist David Foster, Seal, and Kelly Clarkson perform our national anthem.
Oh, see, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam?
These broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rockets went black, the bombs bursting in air, yet through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet
Ladies and gentlemen, David Foster, Seal, and Kelly Clarkson with our national anthem.
Awesome when you see some of our troops from Iraq. This is a very special place. And ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a very special race.
The Indianapolis 500, the most iconic race in the history of sports. And today marks the centennial, 100 years of heroes, tradition, and glory. Make no mistake, there is nothing ordinary about this race. This is the gold standard, a symbol for greatness that plays out on a stage like no other. Now this track, yeah, she's seen it all, triumph and tragedy.
And here's the checkered flag. He's won the Indianapolis 500.
But for every legend who solved this riddle, the stories of those who came up empty are legion. That's the harsh reality of this sport. But without the bitter, sweet wouldn't be as sweet. In 1985, Danny Sullivan opens up a candy store out of turn 2 and leaves Mario with the bill. One of the sweetest moves ever. A spin and win. Just goes to show in racing, you never know. Just ask Sam Hornish Jr. How close was Marco Andretti? 0.06 of a second. Well, this is what they race for. With victory comes the honor of having your face sculpted into one of the greatest trophies in sports. Legends like Rutherford, John Cock, Fittipaldi, to name a few. But only A.J. Foyt, Al Unser, and Rick Mears claimed the Borg Warner 4 times. Extraordinary. Today, Helio looks to join that fraternity, but he'll be pushed to the brink by those looking to make their own history. Here's the thing, at Indy, you're either first or forgotten. Cruel? Maybe, but such is life. An opportunity missed, a door unopened, a path not chosen. But every year on Memorial Day weekend comes the chance to cross these bricks and live forever. No votes, no politics, no thanks to the Academy. Nothing. Just driver, machine, and the pursuit of immortality.
The gleaming candlelight still burning bright through the sycamores for me. The new mown hay sends out its fragrance through the fields I used to roam. When I dream about
Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Neighbors. Welcome back. And now, to say the most famous words in motorsports, ladies and gentlemen, the chairperson of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Mary Hallman George.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
The quest is about to begin. Alex Tagliani will lead him from the pole position. The first Canadian ever on the pole. Next to him, the bookmaker's choice from New Zealand, Scott Dixon. And let's go upstairs to the fellows who will start it all for you. Marty Reed with Eddie Cheever and Scott Goodyear. Take it away, Marty.
All right, Brent, thank you very much. Hello again, everybody. And I don't care how many times you come to the Speedway, when you hear those 33 engines come to life, the hair on the end of your arms stands on end. And for over like 100 years, the fans have been coming here for the speed and, yes, for the risk and reward. Now it's time to go racing. And Eddie, take us through the emotions that these drivers are feeling as we get ready to go on the pace laps and through the green flag.
Every driver in the field right now is seeing the world through his visor. They've shut out everything around them. They're in contact with their pits, and they're cleaning up their office. They're getting ready for 500 miles. And they know that when they get to that first corner, they're going to have to be on automatic. It's impossible to program the first few corners because there's so much chaos. But inevitably, somebody will try to win on the first race, and I have yet to see some on the first corner, and I have yet to see anybody do it correctly.
Well, there is one big change this year as the cars roll out, Scott Goodyear. Let's talk about the double file restarts.
Well, Marty, this will be the first time in Indianapolis 500 history that will attempt these restarts double file. We've been doing this single file. We're programmed that like drivers. We want to go down there and get the job done, pass the car in front of us. Well, we have to now share that road with our neighbors beside us, and drivers are not very polite. I think they'll get used to it in the first couple of restarts, but as the race goes on, they'll get very difficult, and the final one, I will tell you, will be every man and woman for himself.
All right, well, the reason of here, of course, is to celebrate the 100th anniversary. take you back to 1911 when Ray Haroon, it was his final drive. Boy, he went out in style, didn't he? Winning the first ever Indianapolis 500. And there is the Marmon Wasp, and it's driven by 1963 winner Parnelli Jones. And look at that car go. It averaged just under 75 miles an hour 100 years ago, and it's still flying around the track. And how about A.J. Foyt? He won the Golden Anniversary event. He won 4 times here. His first was in 1961, then in 64, 67, and 1977. And there he is out on the pace lap. He is leading the field as he is getting ready to bring the cars to the green flag. Also out in the field is the Izod IndyCar 2-seater. And Mario Andretti is at the wheel. There it is. Go to shophonda.com. Enter to win a ride in the Izod IndyCar 2-seater driven by Mario himself. On board right there is U.S. Army retired Sergeant Lotzine Benson. Hello, Sergeant. Enjoy the ride. There's a great view of AJ with Mary Holman George. She's going for the ride of her life alongside the 4-time Indy 500 champion. Across the top of this screen, we'll have our GoDaddy.com starting grid, and you already heard about the first 2 on that front row. Take a look at number 3. Don't count out Oriole Servia. It's the best starting position for Newman Haas Racing since 1993. That team has never won this race in 19 tries. Could today be their day? Let's get our final updates from pit road. First up, Rick DeBrule.
Well, Marty, if there's one thing that makes a difference at this track, it is experience. And that's our GoDaddy What to Watch for today. We have 5 former champions in this race. Between them, they have won 8 of the last 10 races. One of those, Buddy Rice, won in 2004. He's the last driver, not in the big 3, Andretti, Ganassi, or Penske, to have won this race. Now, he hasn't been racing in an IndyCar since 2008. He said he didn't want to come back unless he had a car that could win. And he said that's exactly what Panther has given him today. Jamie Little?
Well, after 9 starts in the Indianapolis 500, Sarah Fisher finds herself in a new role today, expectant mom. As a team owner, she's turned her race car over to Ed Carpenter. And after qualifying 8th last weekend, this team went from a long shot to a contender. Today, Sarah Fisher hopes to make history and become the first woman to win as an owner at Indianapolis since 1929. Vince Welch?
The 2 oldest competitors in the field today are a pair of 48-year-olds, Davey Hamilton and John Andretti. Both have told me this week this could be their final run at the Indianapolis 500. Andretti's words were, "I'm an old-timer stepping up to the plate to swing the bat one more time." Older, yes, but he and Hamilton each believe today's swing of the bat could produce a home run. Jerry Punch?
This country may have no kings or queens, but it does have those who are considered racing royalty, like this man, Roger Penske, whose numbers here as a car owner, 15 wins with 10 different drivers, are more than enough to earn him the honorary title, Lord of the Brickyard. Today, Lord Penske has told me he will pull out all the stops and gamble on fuel, pit, and race strategy in an attempt to win the most prestigious race in Indy history. Marty?
All right, thanks, Doc, very much. As we go on board with one of our 12 onboard cameras, there's Helio Castroneves starting 16th, looking for his 4th Indy 500 championship.
And here's Danica Patrick. She has the talent. She's done very well in the past, but will her car be good enough to win today?
And of course, the 83 of Charlie Kimball. You saw his story in our pre-race. He races with diabetes, and we'll be monitoring his blood sugar level along with him.
Number 9 with Scott Dixon on board. He's looking to win this race for a 2nd time. He is the favorite in the field today, Marty.
Last year's winner and a 2-time champion here at the 500, the 10 car of Dario Franchitti. Can he become a 3-time winner today?
And the 26 of Marco Andretti, he certainly had difficulty getting into the field. Only one Andretti has won this race 1 time. They're trying to make it at least coming up to 2.
And let's get ready with the race with our GoDaddy rules of racing. Scott?
6 to 9 pit stops with this 500-mile race here. As much pressure on the pit crew doing the pit work as the drivers on the track. The push to pass, we'll explain that as we go. Drivers will push a button on the steering wheel to get some more horsepower to make the pass complete.
This broadcast is available in Spanish by activating your SAP button, presented by ESPN Deportes. Pace car with A.J. Foyt in tow comes around turn number 4. Cars are already beginning to pick up speed as they come down the front straightaway. Ladies and gentlemen, the 100th anniversary edition of the Indianapolis 500 is green. Scott Dixon takes the early lead. Oriol Servia in second. Third place is Alex Tagliani.
And Marty, a little bit of missed timing by Alex Tagliani down in turn 4. He tried to accelerate a bit too soon. He knew it, got off the gas. It gave Dixon a great run to turn 1.
Dario Franchitti, you saw him side by side with Will Power. He's now in front of him. The titanium skid plates, that's the sparking you're seeing.
But that will go away as the tire pressures get up. Right now, the tires are not quite at the temperature they need to be.
Franchitti is on the move early, looking to get around the 99 of Townsend Bell. Bell holding on for dear life there. We're on board.
But he's not giving up. He's going up now. It's very difficult to make it around 2.
Oh, so close, and that's at 215, 20 miles an hour.
Oh.
He'll try to get the draft. See how the dirty air from the car in front slid Franchitti up the racetrack a little early to be trying that.
Franchitti into the 6th position right now.
A little bit close in the game to be doing that.
Things have settled down just for the moment between those two. It is Dixon, Servia, Tagliani, Dan Wheldon now in 4th.
Here comes Tagliani.
Tag's looking underneath of Servia. They're side by side through the corner. Still hanging on.
Boy,
look out, this is getting dicey. He makes the pass. So move your pole sitter back into the 2nd position, Servia to 3rd, and here comes Dan Wheldon, the man who has finished 2nd the last 2 years here at Indy.
Now with Servia right now, looks like he might be trying to adjust his car, Eddie, because he does not have the speed of the guys that he qualified with on the front row. So as you know, there's some tools inside the cockpit the drivers can change. The roll bars front and rear, and also a weight jacker that they can change by their steering wheel to change the handling on the car. He's probably hard at work inside there right now.
They all are hard at work, but what I'm really shocked at is why this front group is letting Dixon walk away. Actually, the only 2 that seem to be at pace right now are Dixon and Tagliani.
I remember last year, Dixon's teammate Dario Franchitti got the lead early and then took off and went ahead and led. And right now, Dixon, who was the fastest driver on warm-up day, is leading, but Tagliani has caught him very quickly, guys.
While we're watching all this action, we should tell you Simona Di Silvestro came onto pit road. And she is now 1 lap down in 33rd position. We'll get an update as quickly as we can. There you see the front 2, Dixon, Tagliani, then Servia. Townsend Bell is now 4th, ahead of Dan Wheldon, Dario Franchitti, and Will Power. That's your top 7.
And Marty, we saw Tagliani get up there very quickly right behind Dixon. Caught him fast, but was not able to run behind him. So it makes you question how is his car set up. Is his car set up with a downforce level to be able to lead, or can he run in traffic?
Eddie, let's talk about the emotions now. We've survived the first couple of laps. What are these drivers feeling?
Now they know what sort of a car they have. They've only practiced in cold weather, and this is the hottest day that they've run, so they know what sort of balance they have. They've gone through all the corners, and they have a very good idea what they have to work with. What you'll see now is that all of them will start ganging up and trying to have more speed together.
Pretty much in single file at this moment. Look a little bit farther back in the field. There is Vitor Mira. Mira in the 10th spot. And there goes John Andretti. And Andretti goes around and takes the position. They're about 4 seconds behind the race lead. You heard Vince Welch say that this might be the last time at Indy for John Andretti, the 48-year-old.
He's not driving like a guy that's the last race.
There you see at the start-finish line, side-by-side action. That is the 82 of Tony Kanaan as he gets past.
And as Scott just said, all these drivers have little components inside of their car that they can change. So they're trying to find the best that they can, and they're calling back to their pits, starting to tell them what to do for the next pit stop, how much wind change they need, what sort of tire pressures they need.
Let's get an update on Simona Di Silvestro. There she is on track. What happened, Doc?
Well, you talked about her burns and how difficult it was going to be today just to hang on to the steering wheel. She had trouble early on. The car slid up and came into contact with the outside wall. She came down pit road to change 4 tires and take a look at the front suspension. The car just slipping up across the racetrack. Suspension okay. They added a little front wing back on the racetrack when a lap down.
And as you finish up, Doc, you're seeing right now Alex Tagliani has taken the race lead, our second leader of the day. Scott Dixon led the first 7 laps. Tagliani now opening up some room.
So let's take what Tagliani's done. He had a very good qualifying in pole. I doubted the fact that his car was going to be this good on race day. He's managed to get through traffic, past Dixon, and he's pulling away. At this point, he looks like he's the favorite.
Well, and it's a long race to go. As we talked about, 500 miles, those 6 to 9 pit stops that the drivers will have to take into account. A lot of pressure on the crew also, but for Dixon right now, he's sitting back there. He knows what his car is doing, maybe making some adjustments inside. It looks like he's starting to stalk Tagliani that's ahead of him. And Eddie, you know we hate running behind the car that's in front.
Let's go back and show you exactly how the lead changed hands. Coming down the front stretch.
Very clean, perfect pass. Both drivers know what they're doing. Dixon's quite happy to let him go by and probably to see how his car is running. But remember, Scott, the car that's running behind the leader always uses less fuel, so you start putting some money in the bank here.
You can see that setup was done back there in turns 3 and 4, and this speed right now, it's about 225 miles an hour, timed perfectly to get past Dixon, so he does not have any recourse going back into 1.
Dixon's led this race now 6 times in a career, and for Tagliani, this is his first time ever in front. Behind them is Oriol Servia, Townsend Bell, and Dan Wheldon. That rounds out your top 5. And then a little bit bigger gap as we get back to Dario Franchitti, Will Power, and Ed Carpenter. And there you see the 98 as Dan Wheldon, as he has gotten around and moved up into the 3rd position now as he all of a sudden finds some new life.
Not only has he found some new life with this ride, he seems to have just picked up where he left off last time. He's very strong.
And Oriol Servia being passed again. So Servia gets passed by Franchitti. So Servia, who started in the 3rd position, has been bumped back to 6th. Right behind Servia is Will Power, but up front it is Alex Tagliani and Scott Dixon. They're 2 seconds ahead of Townsend Bell. Our telecast is presented by GoDaddy.com, and we're going to take you side by side. Back here at the 100th anniversary edition of the Indianapolis 500, Alex Tagliani has now led 7 laps as he is in front of Scott Dixon. Of 1.3 seconds back is Townsend Bell with Dan Wheldon and Dario Franchitti rounding out your top 5. And they are lapping at about 220 to 221.
I kind of feel at this point that Dixon is actually letting Tagliani clean the air for him. It's as if he's trying to stay there. He can keep the pace. It looks like he's trying to save some fuel. And both these cars look very comfortable to drive. Townsend Bell, on the other hand, seems like every now and again he catches up.
That might just be a function of the downforce level on the car. Maybe it might be a little bit more comfortable being a little bit further back from the car in front. There again, changes inside the cockpit or maybe some wing adjustments and tire pressures during a pit stop. But this is the time of the race where you really need to see what kind of a car you have underneath you, as you mentioned earlier, Eddie, and get into a rhythm, get into the smooth groove. You just tell the guys back in the pit lane what's going on, and you can make some changes in the first stop. Rick Mears was always so good with this at making the race car go towards the conditions.
Let's drop back a little farther in the field. There's Helio Castroneves in the 3 and right in front of Graham Rahal. And Rahal is our biggest movers, guys. He started 29th. He has moved up 8 spots to the 21st position. Doc, what do you hear?
Just before climbing in the car, he told me, he said, here are my goals today. He said, run 500 miles, number 1. Number 2, be patient. Number 3, pass lots of cars early. Number 4, be patient. Number 5, get in the top 5 with 30 laps to go. And number 6, do all that while being patient. I think he forgot the patient part. Vince?
Helio Castroneves, just as Scott Goodyear was talking about the fact that you had to choose the proper downforce level, and Rick Mears was such a genius at that. Mears, one of the spotters for Helio. Helio said that would be a key decision today, and he referenced 2008 when they had to put downforce in the car that would give him stability, but in the end it limited his passing speed, and that was a downfall. He said we can't afford that mistake coming from deep in the field today. He's currently running 20th.
2 guys who could make a lot of history today. Of course, Helio could get his 4th Indy 500 championship, and Graham Rahal could become the youngest winner on the 25th anniversary of his father's Indy 500 win. Let's go back up front. There is Alex Tagliani. He has opened up an 0.8 of a second lead over Scott Dixon. And behind Dixon, it's another full second back to Townsend Bell in third. There is Townsend, Dan Wheldon in fourth, and Dario Franchitti, you see him there, in fifth.
And Eddie, what I noticed right now is that Alex Tagliani, his car is not using up all the road. Look how close Dixon gets to the wall while riding aboard with Franchitti there. But when you're watching the drivers right now, his car is very comfortable, not even down to the white line by the apex, not even using up all the road on the exit. And for these drivers right now, the car, when it's working well, is very easy to drive. When it starts to move around, it starts to slide towards the wall.
Especially when you're in the lead, because you have that beautiful, clean air.
Just saw target machine of Scott Dixon that we're riding on board with right now start to slide along. And as you watch the Firestone telemetry, 100% throttle, the RPMs are creeping up, 10.3 is the maximum. Look at the speed, close to 230 going in, just touching it. Car's set up nicely. You only want to lose 4 or 5 miles an hour going through turns, maybe a little bit too much there. Back down onto the front stretch.
One thing we can tell you, Scott Dixon has hit the push to pass button. You get 15 uses, as we described at the beginning of the race. He's used it once. Alex Tagliani has actually used it 3 times already, guys. Paul Tracy into the pits. This is an unscheduled pit stop here on lap number 21.
And they're making adjustments to his front wing.
And they've got a problem. The engine has been shut off. Let's go back. Maybe we can see exactly what happened to Paul.
There he's in the middle of the turn, a little high off the white line, the low side, up into the gray, and yes, he's going to tag the wall just with that right side, and the yellow is now out.
We've got yellow for the first time, and Takuma Sato from Japan has hit the wall and has brought out our first caution. Right after Paul Tracy had brushed the wall as well. Saw Jimmy Vasser there, one of the co-owners of the team. Sato's damage is serious there. That's going to put him out for the day.
I would have thought, looking at Tracy's accident, there would have been more grip up there, Scott. We're really early off in the race, and there shouldn't be any marble.
And Sato actually has a car going underneath him, and in this situation there, he is up into the gray area and too high. And the marbles are probably already started. The marbles are those little pieces of rubber that come off the tires as the cars continue to go around. And once you're up in that area, there's absolutely no grip.
But he was way too high, way too late. That's one of those things, if you see somebody's coming, you should do what Tagliani and Dixon did, is move to one side, let him pass you before you get to the corner so you don't have to be up high in the gray area. Because that gray area is no man's land.
Takuma's second Indy 500 appearance. He finished 20th last year in his rookie debut, the 34-year-old from Tokyo, Japan. And our average speed, guys, in the first 20 laps, 220.5 miles an hour.
And as the pit window usually is a maximum somewhere around 30 or 32 laps, at lap 21 right now, you're going to see everybody coming into pit lane for service for their 4 Firestone tires and 22 gallons of fuel.
And this is the first real test for the mechanics. They have to get that first pit stop out of the way. Just like the race car drivers, they're nervous at the start of the race. If they can get the first one down right, it sets the right pace for the rest of the race.
I can tell you, Paul Tracy is still on pit road. He is now 3 laps down. So is Simona Di Silvestro. She is back out on track after her early issues. For Tracy, as you see him there, in 6 prior starts, he's had 4 DNFs. And of course, at one time in 2002, he still thinks he won this race. Where race went to Helio Castroneves.
But like he said, he didn't get the bottle of milk.
That's right. And he may not be able to get back out on track either.
And for Paul Tracy,
it was stepping out at 1-2 like crazy, and then
Did he say the car was stepping out?
Stepping out, so that means the back end's coming out when it's usually got oversteer. But this is the time of the race where he's got the experience. He's 42 years old, has so many runs underneath his belt and so many wins. He knows the car is not working. I mean, Eddie, he should have really just throttled back a little bit, got to the first pit stop, made some changes, and continued on. 500 miles is a long time.
As we get ready for this first round of pit stops, we can tell you the biggest mover has been Graham Rahal. He has picked up 9 positions to 20th. Tony Kanon's picked up 7 positions. He's now up to 15th. Marco Andretti has picked up 6 positions. He is 21st, right in front of his Andretti Autosport teammate, Danica Patrick.
Talked about pressure a little bit earlier on, Eddie.
Alex Tagliani, leading this race, wants to win it so bad. The pressure and the butterflies in his stomach right now have to be immense.
Here we go with our first round of pit stops. And Dr. Jerry Punch, Ryan Briscoe's coming your way.
Marty Ryan started 26, has only gained 1 position because they've been battling a serious understeer in the car in turns 1 and 2. The car very much pushy, would not turn at all. Roger Penske said, be patient, we know how to get you there. It's just any other race. So he's only gained 1 position. They will come in and make a front wing adjustment to try to allow for the understeer. Let's go down to Rick Cabrul.
Will Power brings the car, and they're going to give him half a turn on the front wing. The car isn't handling quite right. They need to move up. Jamie?
Scott Dixon in the 9. He's tightened him up, down and away. 77 is Alex Tagliani. Fuel and tires only. Alex Tagliani is your winner off pit road, and he retains the lead. Marty?
Will Power, the 12 car, has no left rear tire. Tagliani wins the Sunoco Pace race off pit road, but this is the story right now. We talked about this. You cannot afford to make a mistake on pit road, and there is Will Power.
And that happens. That happens when everybody, you just one poor judgment, and there goes your race.
We talked about the pressure not only in the drivers, but also on the crew. You have to have all those stops perfectly. The wheel does not get on right. The serviceman is actually waving his hand. Will Power is off and going, and unfortunately the wheel nut was not on.
And you saw that it ended up in another pit. We'll check and see if anybody was injured, but there is Will Power trying to limp his way around to get back in to get that 4th tire. And side by side, you saw that Will Power did make it back to pit lane. He's now got 4 fresh Firestones on the car. He has been bumped back to 29th at this stage. He was 7th. Here's the replay.
Now the servicemen are doing the work to the car, and you'll notice that the inside rear tire changer is actually waving, say his work is not complete, and the message is not passed along to Will Power, who then departs the pit lane. Now you watch here very closely. Just look in your back right-hand corner here, which is the left rear for the 12 car of Will Power. The wheel will come dislodged as the car leaves. You can see the guy on the right-hand side waving quickly, saying it's not on. He had a problem, and the car comes off.
Rick, give us the latest.
Boy, very frustrating for these guys. I actually watched them this morning. Then they came out before they got to the grid. They were out here practicing pit stops, trying to get it right down on race day. The good news is you see Clive Howell there. He's the strategist for Will Power, standing by with the headsets in the center. They brought him in, they changed that left rear, and they gave it thumbs up. It appears that there was no damage to the car, and that's the critical thing. He's at the back of the pack, but it'll go.
And while we've got a quick moment here, let's check in with Jamie Little, as I think she's caught up with Lotzine Benson, who was the lucky man who got to ride in the 2-seater.
Yes, Sergeant Benson got to go for a thrill ride with Mario Andretti. What was that like for you?
It was absolutely amazing, and it's unlike anything I could have even possibly have expected. And the speeds that they're doing now, I can't even expect that after even already doing 190. So it's just outstanding. And I guess it's possible for anybody to do it. You know, you just go to shophonda.com and you can sign up for it.
And you wrote a great letter. You fought in Iraq and was injured, and you were chosen to do it. Mario, what was it like for you starting this field with him behind you?
Well, it was as big a thrill as you can imagine, because I think both of us can claim that we did the first hot lap in the Centennial race. You know, and I was hoping that he would have a good time, and I think he did, because I always do. And so it was great. It was very clean. I love to do this. ShopHonda.com. You can enter that. You get into the, you can get a ride with me at some of the other races later on in the season.
Great opportunity. Let's go back upstairs to Marty.
We're getting ready for history here. Our first double foul restart. They come into turn number 3. They're still side by side. Some pretty good spacing as they come out of 4. The green flag flies. Here we go. Will it work as they head towards turn number 1? It's Tagliani, Dixon, Bell, and Servia.
This will be the race down to turn 1. Who's going to be more brave, or somebody going to be able to take advantage of it? Dixon's got the better line,
and he'll take the lead. So Scott Dixon back out in front. Tagliani second. Oh, look out, car into the wall.
Turn 1, it's all behind
EJ Vizo is into the wall hard. So
that was our first double file restart.
And we almost made it.
And unfortunately for KV Racing, that is the second car for them that is out
That's
today.
out, car.
Takuma Sato was our first caution, and now the second for Venezuela's EJ Vizo.
Now the biggest difference obviously is the fact that they're starting side by side, but it looked like they were starting to get in line, Scott, didn't they? It looked tidy from what we could see.
They gave everybody space up there in the top side in turns 3 and 4. I think it was done picture perfect. Not sure how this came about, but we have unfortunately seen a lot of that with EJ over the years.
Let's go from high out top and see what happened.
No room.
Can't do 3 wide going into 1.
And it's not the last lap of the race. The first restart. Quite frankly, we should know better.
Yeah, absolutely. That is uncalled for.
On board with Ryan Briscoe.
Listen to Briscoe, gets off the throttle. He sees it transpiring in front of him, does an excellent job getting through all that. And Eddie, you've been through that, I've been through that. Man, your heart rate is just going through the roof.
And you're on automatic. Your hands are... Oh, how about Marco? Oh, that is close.
Go low, go low, go low.
Yellow.
Good job.
Wow. That was great driving from Marco. That was very hard. He couldn't have been 2 inches away from that car.
Paper between the wheels.
Well, I was watching Briscoe's hands going back and forth, and I was thinking, left, right, which way do I go? All right, well, we're going to clean up the mess in our second caution here at Indianapolis. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
The 100th anniversary of the Indianapolis 500. Telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. Domains, websites, and everything in between. And Chevrolet and America's premier sports car, Corvette.
At Indianapolis, they've almost created drama in the sense of anticipation before the start of the race.
The roar of the crowd, and then, you know, start your engines, and away it goes, and the sound.
There was this big 5.1 audio effect going all the way around the track. It was unbelievable to see.
I don't care who you are, where you've been, what you've seen, you would have goose pimples. I've even got them now thinking about it.
Jackie, we get them too. I trust you. We're back here at Indianapolis getting ready for another of our double file restarts. The first one went pretty well until they tried to go 3 wide down into turn number 1. And there is John Andretti, of course, in the 43. He started 17th. He has moved up to 11th, and Vince is with a pretty happy car owner, I think.
That's right, John Andretti, of course, the grandson of Mario Andretti. His godfather is A.J. Foyt, and a business partner with this man, and drives the paint scheme of Richard Petty, one of the NASCAR legends. What do you think about seeing that 43 car going around at 220 plus?
It looks really good. You know, he started back there 17th, worked his way up to 10th or 11th right now. So right now he's holding his own, so that's all we can ask for him right now.
Good to see you at Indianapolis, Richard.
Glad to be here, man.
Marty?
All right, let's reset it for you. It's going to be Dixon Tagliani up front, then Bell, Franchitti in row 2, Servia and Wheldon in row number 3. Let's go back and take another example and watch Ryan Briscoe's hands as he's trying to decide which way to go.
You see all 3 cars going for the same piece of real estate up front, and as I mentioned, this early in the race, that's probably not what you want to be doing. Briscoe does a great job. He got out of the throttle early because he saw it happen in front of him, Eddie.
But it doesn't make any sense. What they're trying to do makes absolutely no sense. And if you're looking at, there's just no room. I don't understand why one of them didn't lift. And that to be at the beginning of a 500-mile race and be doing that, what are you thinking?
That was the 06 of James Hinchcliffe, one of the rookies in the race on one side. And let's check in with Dr. Jerry Punch.
Guys, because of the double file restarts and what could happen, which you saw a moment ago, Roger Penske brought his most experienced crewman, 28-year veteran Rick Reineman, back to the racetrack. He put Reineman in turn 1 at the end of the front straightaway for one reason, and that was to talk to Ryan Briscoe and clear him if something happened around him. That's exactly what he did a moment ago, and it saved him a race car and might have saved him a race.
Thank you, Doc. Let's check in on Dario Franchitti's situation as they were approaching that first double file restart.
Hey, Dave and Dario, not sure if we heard the green flag a little late for that one. I'm not sure if we missed it or you actually got it on time.
I called it. It seems like race control called it late. Waiting for the leaders to go, and then they're calling green when the leaders already accelerated for about 2 seconds.
So obviously a little confusion.
What they're doing is they're starting to build up the knowledge they have on these restarts. Those 2 seconds they were talking about, that's 2 seconds earlier that he probably could have accelerated. So they're starting to figure out how they're going to play out these side-by-side restarts.
And it's important to note that our restarts are now happening still back here in turns 3 and 4, but before, when it was single file, the car that was in front of you went off of him. Now, sitting back a little closer, you can see the leader, and that's what he's talking about. I went off the leader that time, not necessarily off what they're telling me from the spotters channel on the radio, Eddie.
Which is always a good idea, going off the leader, because he's the one that has the call.
He's the one you want to catch.
He's the one you have to catch.
Getting the signal that the next time by will go green. That's the 400 horsepower 2011 Camaro convertible pace car for today's race. It was driven pre-race by 4-time Indy 500 champion A.J. Foyt. To learn more about the pace car and the Camaro, go to Chevy.com. All right, we talked about the double foul restarts. How about if we let the drivers tell you what their thoughts are about those double foul restarts?
For 100 years now, or actually 99 years, they've been using single foul restarts here, and I don't think this track lends itself well to double wide restarts.
Probably more times than not, you're going to view the double foul restart as an opportunity to make up more positions.
I think it's definitely going to create more excitement.
I hate them.
The whole field is going to have a chance to win this race. And they all going to think that, and they all going to try that.
Well, here they are forming up, and we saw just a few moments ago as we went to that, there is some plastic, it looks like, around the suspension of the 10 car.
I don't think it's an issue, though.
As long as it doesn't get inside that radiator duct, which is inside that side pod. And on Alex Tagliani, guys, he said, I hate restarts. You better start liking them right now. Double file, Marty.
Look at the crowd coming to their feet as the cars side by side come through turn number 3. It is Dixon leading Tagliani, then Bell, Franchitti, Servia, and Wheldon. They come down and get ready. Here we go through turn 4, and the green flag flies.
And we know the high line in 1 does not work today.
Although Dixon, the red car in front, got a great jump, Tags is going to try and make a move, go on the inside into 1, gets it done.
And look behind him. Whoa, Dario trying to make the move as well, and he makes it stick. Does everybody make it through this time? It looks like they did. Now through 2. It's Tagliani, Dixon, Bell, Franchitti. And there is the 99. As Bell has slid back another spot.
I don't know about you, Scott, but I'm kind of liking these double file restarts. More is happening on the first 2 corners. It was tight, but it was active.
I like it because we're sitting here, Eddie. I'm not so sure I'm going to be a fan of it. I was actually sitting in the seat.
I don't sit over there anymore.
It's a lot more pressure, and then actually now Dixon's going to return the favor.
And he's going to retake the lead. So these two have swapped the lead now between them on all 34 of our race laps that we've completed. And boy, all of a sudden, it looks like he's going to pull away for a little bit.
And Franchitti is 3rd.
So Dario moved him to 3rd, Dan Wheldon 4th. Townsend Bell, as was mentioned, had dropped back to 5th. Car on the move there, Ed Carpenter, as Carpenter goes around Oriol Servia, the man who started on the outside of the front row. So Carpenter all of a sudden inserting himself into the mix.
And we touched on Servia's car at the very beginning of the show. The blue car that we saw on your screen there for a second. Cars are going around him again on the outside of row 1. The car's not been comfortable for him since the start, Marty.
Yeah, he's lost 2 more positions as Servia has lost spots to Mira and Kanan. He's back to the 9th spot.
Now, what's happened from what we saw before, a lot of these cars have made very small adjustments when they were in the pit, so they probably have an improved balance as to what they had at the beginning of the race. And we have to remind everybody that all of the practice that they have done before this race has been done in cooler temperatures.
The battle for second place is getting a little warmer. Here comes Dario Franchitti closing on Alex Tagliani.
Tags moves to the middle of the track to follow the slipstream left by the car in front, which is the number 9 car of Dixon.
And it's just to reopen some space over Franchitti. Behind Franchitti, it's Wheldon and Bell, with Ed Carpenter now shown in 5th.
Eddie, Eddie, as you know, these cars run differently as the fuel load goes. As Dixon starts to stalk the 70 settlement, Alex Tagliani on a full fuel, right as you come off of a pit stop, sometimes the car works great with new tires and sometimes it goes away. Or conversely, sometimes the car gets better as the run goes on. That's what we'll watch for right here.
Franchitti is all over Tagliani.
Has to be patient.
Alex is the meat in a Ganassi sandwich. He's got Dixon in front of him, Franchitti right behind him.
With a driver like Franchitti, he knows how to win this. He's won it twice. He's very patient. I think he's just prodding Tagliani, trying to see what happens when I put my nose up high, what happens when I go down at the bottom. Where am I faster than he is?
Let's get an update on Tagliani, Jamie.
Well, this 77 team is not surprised how Tagliani is running and how fast this car is. He actually has Alan McDonald, Dario's engineer, they won this Indy 500 with back in 2007. They knew how to adjust for this hot temperature. The car is good. They made no adjustments on that first round of stops. Meanwhile, the 9 of Scott Dixon did adjust his car, and he is keeping an eye on the 77.
There is Sam Schmidt. What a story this would be if Alex could win this race. He runs that team from his wheelchair, and well, he has had success in the Indy Lights program, which is a feeder system into this major series of the IndyCar series. As this race continues here with 38 laps complete, it's Dixon, Tagliani, Franchitti, and Wheldon. Our race is presented by GoDaddy.com. ESPN's coverage of Major League Baseball continues on ESPN tonight and Tuesday first. Catch Sunday Night Baseball, 8 Eastern. Joey Votto and the Reds head to Atlanta to take on Chipper Jones and the Braves. And then Tuesday, San Francisco Giants are in St. Louis for a series against Matt Holliday, Albert Pujols, and the Cardinals. Major League Baseball on ESPN Sunday and Tuesday. Back here at the greatest spectacle in racing, our race leader is Scott Dixon by 0.7 of a second over Alex Tagliani and Dario Franchitti close behind. There you see him in third. A little bit farther back, fourth is Dan Wheldon. Look at this, the pass for the position. Here goes Dario Franchitti going into second. So now it is Chip Ganassi Racing running 1-2.
It'll be interesting to see how these two teammates work together. If you know that you don't have to cover your back, you can run a much different line than if you have to defend yourself. And here comes Wheldon.
Tagliani under attack. Wheldon, the man who won this race back in 2005, moves into the third position. So our pole sitter is now back to fourth.
And I think the thing that's happening for Tagliani right now is that he's dropped 2 miles an hour on that last lap. His car was good. Something happened. And now instead of doing 222s, he just did a 220 that last time through.
And he's already used 7 of his 15 push to pass.
And it's way too early in the race to be relying on that.
Oh, it really is. And I think I like the way that you explained it last year, Eddie. It's almost like having a debit card. You start using it too soon, you got nothing left to buy Christmas presents with.
That's right. And your Christmas presents come around on the last 20 laps.
That's right.
Action side by side. You see Will Power there as he is trying to fight his way back into the battle. Ryan Hunter-Reay in that mix as well. James Hinchcliffe in front of both of them. So Ryan Hunter-Reay now into the 26th spot. Charlie Kimball has moved into 27th. Will Power has been bumped back to 28th.
Two things happened in Will Power's pit stop. Obviously, one, the tire problem, but the second is he had to go around the track on 3 wheels. I don't care what anybody says. That's not good for a car. And when a driver's having to go out there at speed and run it, you never know what was rubbing and what wasn't rubbing on the asphalt.
And it takes you a couple of laps to believe in it. You just can't go and put your foot on it. I don't care who you are.
And he's Australian. He's hard-headed.
Power is the last car on the lead lap. 28th position, 22 seconds behind the leader. That pit stop where he lost the left rear tire has been oh so costly. Looking down high above, a great crowd on hand here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as we approach the 1/4 mark of the 100th anniversary edition of this great race. The man out front is Scott Dixon. He started second. They're running 1-2 with his teammate Dario Franchitti right behind. They have got a 1.2-second lead over third place Dan Wheldon, the 2005 winner, with Alex Tagliani, our pole sitter, in fourth. Tony Kanaan, all of a sudden, has been moving up, and he has just gotten around Ed Carpenter, moving up to 6th. He started 22nd. That's 16 spots. This reminds me of last year when he started in the back of the field and worked his way up. Doc, what do you have on Tony?
Exactly a year ago, he started 33rd and got all the way to second in the final laps and ran short on fuel. But Tony Kanaan today is a man on a mission. On carb day practice on Friday, he said the car was fast, and although it's going to be 25 degrees hotter today, and it is, he would not allow his engineers to dial in more downforce. He said, you know what, the track's going to be hot and greasy, but I'm going to be fast, and I am going to the front. Right now, TK is exactly where he wants to be. He wanted to be in the top 10 by lap 50 and move in the top 5 by lap 100, positioning for that first Indy 500 victory.
And as he continues to pull away from Ed Carpenter, farther back in the field, a couple of his old former teammates are running pretty close together, back in 18th and 19th position. Marco Andretti and Danica Patrick, and there they are. And Danica right now 18 seconds behind the race leaders. Vince?
Danica is moving up, though. Remember, she started 25th, so she's gained 6 spots, starting to close in on Marco. They did make a front wing adjustment on that first stop. Her steering was a little positive in that initial stint. Now they're just past the halfway mark on their fuel load here, and Danica told me earlier in the week, I will not be impatient. I learned early on from the veterans, it was the #1 lesson they taught me. 500 miles is a long way. Be patient. They haven't even had to remind her of that today. She's getting a little bit better and moving slowly but surely forward, Marty.
And you saw on the Firestone telemetry that she had to lift going in through turns 1 and 2. There is your top 5. Our telecast presented by GoDaddy.com.
Welcome back to Indianapolis as you look down on this fabulous scene today as our helicam coverage is brought to you by GoDaddy.com and a previous winner from New Zealand. Scott Dixon has led 34 laps. We're just past the 1/4 way now, and he has made his way to the front. Meanwhile, our pole sitter, Alex Tagliani, has slipped back to 4th place. But it is one of the great stories that we are tracking here today. Back in 2000, racing a car down in Orlando, practicing, the owner of this team, Sam Schmidt, suffered a horrendous crash. He became a paraplegic, but he didn't feel sorry for himself. He just came out and said, I want to go to work. And here he is. He is the director of this racing operation, and he directs from his wheelchair. Jamie Little, this is just one of the great stories that any of us have ever been around, and everyone is pulling for Sam.
Absolutely, Brent. Sam Schmidt told me at the start of this race he is living his dream, but his driver, meanwhile, has fallen off the pace a little bit, and he's not saying a whole lot on the radio.
How's the car? All right. Attaboy, now just keep with that pack up there. Start hitting your marks again.
All he said there was, it's all right. He's not saying much. He just lost his rhythm. They said, focus and get back in your rhythm. Guys.
All right, thank you, Jamie, as we're on board with Alex.
He looks comfortable, but if you listen, he keeps coming off the throttle on all the exits of 1 and 2. And if you look at the speeds, the fastest cars right now are Scott Dixon and Dario Franchitti. The Ganassi plan is falling into place. When you can run with your teammate, it's so much easier.
And watch the Firestone telemetry. You can just listen how the RPMs go down. Off the throttle there, you can see that. And that's not what you want. You're in clean air right now. You want to be able to actually drive flat out. And so that means the car is understeering. The front's not acting exactly as the driver wants. He turns in, listen.
Good pace, buddy. Good pace. Keep Danny in your sights.
There you
Keep
go.
Wheldon
That's
in your sights.
exactly
Attaboy.
what he needs to change during the next pit stop.
Of the two cars in front, the one that really has the biggest advantage is Franchitti because he's running along at the same pace, but he's using a lot less fuel. Do you see that thank you that he got when I think that is always, boy, the car really loses the front end when they get close, doesn't it, Scott?
You're riding on board with Dario Franchitti as he flies down the front straightaway. He's following Scott Dixon. And does Chip Ganassi get another Indy 500 win? Stay with us to find out.
And welcome back to Indianapolis. as Scott Dixon, the number 9 car, makes his way down pit road in approach to pitting. 60 miles an hour is his speed limit, saying the car is pretty good. It's going to be a 4-tire stop. You see the probe go in there, filling it up with Sunoco fuel. No changes right now for Scott Dixon. And these slow stop, guys. Goes down the way. Doc.
Oh, what a terrible situation for Tony Kanaan. We have trouble on the racetrack, guys.
Jay Howard has crashed, bringing out our 3rd caution here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So everybody that has stopped early obviously will take advantage of the wave round. Here comes Dario Franchitti.
And the question is for Dario Franchitti, was inside the pit lane before it went yellow?
But he was at the end of his run. He had to come in.
Jamie?
And it's a normal stop. They're calling here 4 tires, no adjustments for Dario Franchitti, who was getting frustrated on those double file restarts, yelling that the drivers are blocking.
We'll see if league officials listen or agree with Dario. He comes back out onto the racetrack.
And it did look like maybe a small adjustment of front wing for Dario on that stop, and we saw a wheel and tire assembly rolling down the track, which we only presume is from the right rear you see there on the 88 car of Jay Howard. And he had just come out back onto the racetrack from a pit stop.
Jay, his first start here at the Indianapolis 500, former Indy Lights champion.
There's the car on the apron. It gets a wiggle because the tire and wheel assembly is loose. Wheel nut probably not on there securely. He was doing everything correctly, getting back up on the gas, Eddie, and then when that happens there, and unfortunately he's going to make contact with the wall.
That was the best possible thing that could have happened, having lost that wheel, that he did not go up the track. If he would have gone up the track in front of those cars that were coming, he could have been hit by 3 of them.
Absolutely. Disappointing for him because this is his 3rd attempt and finally getting into this race.
So twice so far today, guys, we've seen wheel nuts not being properly installed, and it's really been costly for 2 cars.
And it is, and there's more pressure here as we talk about the top of the show, as we see Danica Patrick in the pit lane right now. 6 to 9 pit stops here in a 500-mile race.
And she had to come in to get fuel.
I think she has a problem.
I think she was running out, and that's why you are allowed to come in during the yellow before the pits are open if you need fuel. So she will go back out, and she'll have to make another stop to get tires. Well, we were talking about Tony Kanaan a little bit earlier and the problem he had on his pit stop. Doc, update us.
He was coming down for the routine pit stop, and as he was coming down pit road and trying to turn into the pits, the car coming out around him, and the crew said it was Pippa Mann. They were looking down, of course, very inexperienced, making her very first pit stops today. She came down pit road, and TK could not get turned left into his pits and had to stop. The crew then had to go retrieve the car, pull it back up pit road into their pit stall, and make the pit stop. It cost him a good 35 seconds, and a break, of course, was the yellow coming out while they were sitting here to be able to change tires. And another break was there was minimal to no contact at all with anyone else.
And you're right, Jerry. It was a break that the yellow came out. He's a lap down, but he will be able to take advantage eventually, if not earlier, here for the waiver round. Stay with us. We'll show you what happens.
The 100th anniversary of the Indianapolis 500. Telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. Brought to you by IZOD, the official apparel sponsor of the IZOD IndyCar Series. And Progressive Insurance, introducing the Snapshot Discount.
Looking down from high above, here at the Indianapolis 500, our current race leader is Dario Franchitti. He is one of 4 different leaders. The man who's led the most laps is Scott Dixon. Danica Patrick's running 13th right now, but more on that situation in a moment. Alex Tagliani started on pole, led a total of 20 laps. He right now finds himself in 4th position. Now there's going to be several waiver round cars that'll get them back on the lead lap. First, let's give you an update on Danica Patrick. She is one of 7 cars that are going to be penalized when the pits were closed. Give us the update, Vince.
Well, Danica was about to run out of fuel. That's why she came. So they had to come back in after getting that initial fuel because of the fact she was going to run out to make further adjustments. Also, another issue for Danica has been dealing with the spotter and making sure that their communication is spot on.
Hey, George, will you tell me that there's traffic? I'm a little unclear. It's just that I looked in my mirror and saw that it looked like it might be one car on the outside. So maybe just tell me one car outside if that's what you're thinking. There's two cars coming at me. So just try and do that if you can.
So there's Danica, and there's TJ, her father, way up high, looking down. We'll be back with more after this message from our ABC stations. Here at the Indianapolis 500, where we have just gone back to green flag racing and the side-by-side double file restarts. We got them 3 wide coming into turn number 3. That's Ed Carpenter in the 67. It sorts itself out, and everybody somehow makes it through.
And the car on the high side right now, Thomas Schechter in the 07. Eddie, you know he's aggressive. He drove for you back in 2002, and he's just got his foot on the gas.
That's Anna Beatrice.
And he does not give an inch.
That was Anna Beatrice in the 24. And right behind is Ed Carpenter. And they make it through the corner once again. Up front, it is Franchitti and Dixon with Tagliani, Wheldon, and Bell. That is your top 5. While things have sort of settled down, and there you see what it looks like from turn number 3. There were 6 wave-around cars, so that gives us now 24 cars on the lead lap.
And the Ganassi train is hooked back up again, and Tagliani is getting on the back of it. What he has to do is stick with those top 2. When he's come in, though, from that last pit stop, he was able to make a few changes, Scott, so we'll see if they've tuned the car in a little bit better.
Right now, Dixon dives down the inside, takes that draft away, Eddie, and gets a great run going down there and times it perfectly. Now, will that throw Franchitti off enough that allows Tagliani, Marty, to be able to get a run down the backstretch?
We'll find out as they head towards turn number 3. Don't think he's going to be close enough. On board with Tagliani.
A little better on the throttle trace, Eddie. We talked before about how much he was letting off. Could have made some changes on the pit stop.
4th place there is Dan Wheldon. He is closing on Tagliani.
I don't think when you see the 2 Ganassi cars passing each other, Marty, that they're actually racing for position. They're just, if the one behind has a run, he lets him go by, and then he just drags him along the track. Where when you see Tagliani fighting with Wheldon, that's different. They're fighting for position.
I think you're right, Eddie. I think the 2 red cars will go to battle in the last 20, 30 laps if they're still in that same position.
But the most important thing at this point is to get into your rhythm, find a dancing partner, and maintain the speed of the leaders.
While we watch these cars circle this 2.5-mile historic oval, let's get an update from Jamie on the leaders.
Well, Marty, before that round of pit stops, Scott Dixon's crew told him, watch the use of your weight jacker. Well, look at the left front tire. This came off of his car on that last round. It's down to the cords. Guys, I'm going to ask you a question, Scott and Eddie. What exactly leads to this?
Well, obviously there's a lot of tire wear going on. The track is just a little bit green because we've had a fair amount of rain here, Eddie, but I would have thought that we would have run enough laps to get some rubber down the racetrack, but psychologically, as a driver, do you want to know that or do you not want to know that?
What that means is there's no more rubber. So you're right. It is because the track was green, and they're running at a pretty fast pace, but I was expecting to be a little bit quicker than this, but they have picked up on this last pit stop. They're now running 223 miles an hour.
With all the action that we had with the 3rd caution and everything else, we never got a chance to put a period on Simona Di Silvestro's day, as she is shown right now in 31st position. And she's out of the race. How about it, Doc?
Marty, her car has gone back to the garage area. Simona has stayed here on pit road. Simona, what happened to the car?
Well, you know, I made a mistake in turn 1 in the beginning of the race, and I brushed the wall, and something just doesn't feel right after that. So they took it back to check it, and I really want to apologize to HPM and Entergy because, you know, I screwed up a little bit there. I had a lot of steer and brush the wall. But everybody did a great job, and we'll see if we get back out, but we'll see.
How are your hands?
They're all right. They're hurting a little bit. You know, it's pretty tough to drive like that, but you know, you just kind of fight through it. And you know, I screwed up, I guess, a little bit. So you know, my fault definitely.
An injury and a disappointment here at Indy. They hope to be able to get the car, though, back on the racetrack soon, Marty.
And she doesn't have to apologize for anything. She was Rookie of the Year last year. Our highest rookie right now is JR Hildebrand. Started 12th. He's running 7th. You're looking at the 4 top cars as they streak down the front straightaway here, as we have now completed 77 of the 200 laps at the Indianapolis 500. In fact, the top 5 have opened up a 3-second margin back to 6th place. Hildebrand, it's Dixon, Franchitti, Tagliani, Wheldon, and Townsend Bell. That is your top 5 right now. We showed 3 cars out of the race. Jay Howard, EJ Vizo, Takuma Sato. Tracy and Silvestro are still trying to get theirs repaired to get back out.
But you can really tell a difference between the Ganassi cars and everybody else.
Trouble for Ryan Hunter-Ray as he has slowed off the pace. Now remember, this is an A.J. Foyt car that he got into after being bumped out of the field. Created a bit of controversy, but right now his problem is that he is falling back rapidly. There goes Will Power around him. He is shown right now, last car on the lead lap in 24th position. Get an update from his pit as quickly as possible. In fact, let's go back and take a look as we may be able to get our answer right here. On board with Charlie Kimball. Oh, yeah.
He hit the wall going in the corner. So you never know when you rub up a wall like that if you flatten the tire or not. It takes probably 2 or 3 seconds to understand if you have. It's a very awkward feeling to have.
Well, it looks like he has gotten back up to speed. We'll keep an eye on him, see what happens.
And sometimes what happens with that is you end up knocking the alignment out of the car a little bit toe on the right rear corner, so now it will handle differently, and smartly he goes for a couple of laps to get a feel for it and making sure it's okay instead of throwing it into the wall.
But to put that in perspective, he probably lost 400 yards because of that mistake.
So we've knocked down 80 of the 200 laps, and our race leader is a typical sight. Target Chip Ganassi Racing out in front with Dixon and Franchitti. Our telecast is presented by GoDaddy.com. Check our motorsports calendar because NASCAR Now, presented by Shell Nitrogen, will be Monday at 6:30 Eastern on ESPN2. And our next stop on the NASCAR Nationwide Series in Chicago, Saturday night, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. NHRA Super Nationals qualifying Saturday at 5:30 Eastern, and then the finals are next Sunday at 4:30 Eastern. That's both on ESPN2. And the next IZOD IndyCar Series race will be at Texas, Saturday, June 11th, 8 o'clock Eastern. They're going to run 2 races that night, and you'll see it with our friends over at Versus. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you're looking at Scott Dixon. He has led 53 laps. He's one of 4 different leaders. We've had 9 lead changes. Right behind him in second place is Dario Franchitti, as he is 6/10 of a second back. In third, Dan Wheldon. He's just gotten around Alex Tagliani for that position. Of course, Wheldon trying to become a 2-time winner in his own right. Tagliani has used the push-to-pass button a total of 9 times already. He's only got 6 left. He may run out before the end of this race. Townsend Bell been solid in the top 5 most of this race. He is running 3.8 seconds behind the race leader. In 6th spot is our best running rookie, and that is JR Hildebrand, as he is a total of 5.7 seconds behind the race lead, driving for John Barnes and Panther Racing. Then in 7th spot, the man who started on the outside of the front row from Spain, Oriol Servia for Newman Haas Racing. They're trying to win for the first time in 19 tries. In 8th place, it's Ed Carpenter, the Indianapolis resident, doing a fine job as he's 11 seconds back. And right behind him in 9th place is Graham Rahal, as he has moved up steadily through this field. Remember, he started 29th. He's trying to duplicate what his dad did just 25 years ago. For the rest of the field, let's go up to speed, and we'll start off with Don.
Marty, Thomas Schechter started 21st and has now moved up to 10th position. How did he do it? He says, I am driving with rhythm. I want to get in a rhythm and stay out of trouble. It's amazing what a couple of birthdays will do for a driver in terms of maturity. Thomas told me his biggest regret at Indy was in 2002. As a rookie, he was running away with the race, driving for Eddie Cheever, and he said, I drove like a lunatic into the wall with less than 30 laps to go and ruined my shot. Rick.
Well, let's talk about the man behind him, James Hinchcliffe, a rookie. Earlier this week, he told me he'd experienced just about everything. Getting into the field, being bumped, get back in, rain, everything. Well, now he's experienced what his team is calling being the meat in a sandwich. He got squeezed, bumped the right front, had some suspension issues earlier on. Now the team says the car is fine. As a result, he's now running in 11th place. Vince?
Running in 12th is Marco Andretti. Certainly been one of the movers here today. He's up 15 spots. I was speaking to his dad, Michael, just a few moments ago in his pits, and Michael was lamenting that they were really hung out on that last yellow in which they were just getting ready to pit, coming in, and the yellow came out. Otherwise, the race car is pretty good for Marco Andretti. Doc.
Ryan Briscoe from 26th to 13th. It would be better than that, but in the last yellow came out, Briscoe was caught out and had to pit under yellow for fuel. Rather than taking a splash, which are the rules, they decided to go ahead and fill the car up, which meant a penalty. He had to restart at the end of the longest line, so had a lot of traffic to make his way back in the top 15, now being shown in 13th spot. Vince.
Danica Patrick is running a pretty solid race today. Remember, Danica started 25th. She's up to 14th, so she's gained 11 spots. She has said that if you have a good race car on race day in Indianapolis, it shouldn't be difficult to drive. It should be comfortable. She hasn't been uncomfortable, but they've been taking front wing out to give her a little bit more grip throughout the course of this race. Rick.
Back behind Danica is Bertram Baguette, the guy from Belgium. He got caught out during that last pit stop. He was just about to come in. As a result, he had to stay out. Finally, had to come in to get a splash of fuel and then go back out around and do a full pit stop. Going into this race, he said his mantra was going to be patience. Patience. He needed to remember and understand that. He said he learned that last year during his first race. He's ready for it this year.
And now you have the top 15. We can tell you there's 23 cars on the lead lap. Those that are one lap down, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Anna Beatrice, Will Power, and Pippa Mann. Davey Hamilton is 28th, 4 laps down. We're going to step aside just for a moment. There's your top 5. Our telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. Race leader here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as we're approaching the halfway mark in this anniversary edition. 100th anniversary of the Indy 500. Scott Dixon has a 2.8-second lead over teammate Dario Franchitti. Franchitti has faded here as this run has continued. And remember, tires were an issue on that last round, so maybe trying to take care of the rubber.
They're trying to take care of the rubber, but Franchitti had a different problem. He had Wheldon all over him, who tried to pass him going into one, and I think Franchitti might have lost his pace because of that. But what was interesting, that Wheldon fell way back also.
Franchitti and Wheldon are 2 and 3 seconds behind the race leader. Behind them in 4th place is Alex Tagliani. 5th place is Townsend Bell. 6th is JR Hildebrand. And you can see that the field has begun to string out a bit here at the 500.
As we run, Marty, the tires will start lasting more because they're starting to put rubber on the circuit. So the drivers will know that they can push it a little bit harder.
Watching all this, and we've now knocked down 98 laps, 2 to the halfway mark. We'll update you on a couple of other drivers. One in particular, Tony Kanaan, is back on the move again. Remember, he got caught out in that round of pit stops, had that problem, and he's 16th. He's rallying back 7 spots. Dan Wheldon's in. Jamie?
And Dan Wheldon has been struggling all day to find his pit box. They're putting everything out there to get his attention. He finds it just fine. Everybody's talking about this 98 car right now, saying how strong he is. You see the change on the wing in the front, just 1 round, 4 tires, they filled it up. Now his teammate, Townsend Bell, said he needs help on the front nose. They're saying there's wind gusts going into 3 at about 20 miles per hour. You're going to see a lot of front wing changes to give them that downforce. Townsend Bell, slide adjustment as well, and he's down and away, guys.
Thank you, Jamie. Meanwhile, Dixon and Franchitti continue to motor around this speedway.
And Marty, when they're talking about the wind gust right now, the wind is for you into 1 and behind you in 3.
Alex Tagliani is in, Jamie.
And Alex has slipped back a bit. You know, he started on the pole, but he's been running a high oil temperature that this team has been keeping an eye on. He's not saying much on the radio. The car is strong, but guys, they're being a little conservative. 4-tire stop. He's down and away in 9.6 for your pole sitter. Meanwhile, Scott Dixon in the 9 car is in. He was overusing that weight jacker from inside the cockpit for comfort reasons. Helio Castroneves, you see the 3 is in as well. No adjustments on Scott Dixon's car. He is good. Right now, meanwhile, the 10 car, Dario Franchitti continues to lead. As you see, Scott Dixon making his way in. Let's see if they make a wing adjustment last minute here. They'll change all 4 tires, fill it up with Sunoco fuel. He's been the man to watch. They are making a front wing adjustment, and he bobbles on trying to exit his pit box still. 8.4-second pit stop.
All right, Jamie, you've been awfully busy in this round of pit stops as all those cars are in your section of the racetrack on pit road. Here comes his teammate, Dario Franchitti, as Franchitti makes his way at 60 miles an hour down to the far end of pit road. Oh, in trouble. We have contact into the wall. The 06 of the rookie, James Hinchcliffe. He has tagged the wall at the halfway mark of the 500, our 4th caution of the day. Jamie?
Yeah, sorry, boys.
And this is you hear the radio there saying, sorry, boys. Dario Franchitti's 2nd time today. The caution has fallen when he was on pit road again. Left out, full course yellow right now. It was the 9-second stop for Dario Franchitti. Marty?
Would you guys say that his life is charmed right now?
Oh my goodness. To have that happen once in a season is a big advantage. To have it twice and in the Indy 500, that's, I would say, very charmed.
There's the Homaltro safety crew. They are helping James get out of the car. And let's go back and take a look at what happened.
He's already up in the gray, guys, and we're not sure why he got there. Maybe the car underneath him, he let the car go through, and that's on the exit of 3, so he's up on the north end in the short chute. But I can tell you he's a young rookie who did a very good job coming here with a lot of pressure on him from sponsors and a lot of following from Canada. This is something he didn't want to have happen, Eddie.
What has changed lately is the wind is now pushing the cars faster down the back straight, and they're probably picking up 3 or 4 miles an hour going into 3. But obviously he was hung out when he was past going into that corner, and we've seen that there just isn't enough grip once you get out of the line.
Yeah, you heard Jamie talk about the wind change, and let's listen and watch. Ouch.
That's almost a photocopy of what we saw before.
Rick, what are you hearing?
Remember I said he'd gotten in that situation where he was like the meat in the sandwich. He got banged. They'd been chasing that, and they were talking about being the right front the whole time. After he hit the wall, he came on the radio and said, guys, I'm really, really, really sorry.
So he's on his way to the medical center for the mandatory checkup. Field under caution now for the 4th time here today. We've run 20 laps of the 101 so far under the yellow. Right now we have a total of 14 cars on the lead lap. Some of that could change, however, based on this next round of pit stops. Remember, some of the cars got in early, as we talked about with Dario Franchitti, were able to do their service. Wait to see how it all shakes out. Right now, your race leader, our 5th different leader, is shown as rookie JR Hildebrand. See the cleanup going on at the entrance right near the middle of turn 4. Danica Patrick making her way down on pit road. Vince?
Danica Patrick getting the fuel there. You see, they've really been dealing with the issue of just getting her more grip. That's been the #1 complaint for Danica.
Well, and this is the 2nd time that she had to come in, get enough fuel to keep from running out.
She was only there for 5 seconds.
Well, she can only take enough to get back around. If she takes more than that, then she would be penalized and have to go to the back.
And she's coming right back in again when they allow her.
That's right. So you can see that Danica coming back out. We mentioned Alex Tagliani on his pit stop. Let's go back and take a look and see what happened.
Yeah, I would expect that they're trying to pound down the rear wheel flap, maybe to try to take some downforce of it, or maybe it got hit and something bent up there, Eddie. I'm not quite clear.
No, we heard earlier that they had a high oil temperature. I wonder if there's something that they're trying to do to create an exit, maybe to allow the air to go through. But I don't know how that would affect it. But there was definitely something they weren't being too gentle about. It didn't look like Foyt with a hammer in his hand, but he was trying to remove something that didn't want to be removed.
But we'll try and get an update from pit road on that situation with Alex Tagliani. You saw the one crewman almost go for a ride as he was hanging on for dear life at the back of the car when they let it down off the jet.
Let's talk about those restarts for a second. All the accidents that we've seen, Scott, have been cars that have been pushed a little bit too high, haven't they, when they've been passed? So what we've seen on the restarts is that all the cars bundle up. Now let's start working towards that last restart that will happen.
Well, hold on to that thought, guys, because we've got, as you can see from high above, several cars coming down pit road as they're going to be making their starts, including our race leader, JR Hildebrand. There he is. He's the 200th different leader in the history of the Indianapolis 500. Doc, it's all yours.
Ryan Briscoe is still complaining of an understeer, primarily in turn 1 and in traffic. A half a turn up, both front wings ripped. Bertrand Baguette comes in. This time he didn't get caught out with the fuel. More importantly, JR Hildebrand, not just the leader of the race, the rookie leader of the race. In his first race ever at the Indy 500, he can say he's led a lap. Now let's see what he can do the rest of the way.
And he holds station of those that did come in for pit stops, and he comes out ahead of Briscoe and Baguette, Mira, Kimball, and Danica Patrick. We're going to step aside for just a minute here. We're under caution, our fourth, after this message from our ABC station.
The 100th anniversary of the Indianapolis 500. Telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. Brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And Expedia. The best travel tools are all in one place. Where you book matters. Expedia.
Well, this began 100 years ago. Ray Haroon, driving the Marmon Wasp, won the initial Indianapolis 500. And a little note for you trivia buffs. He started as far back as number 28. No one in history has started further back than that 32 car right there. And guess who we're joined by here? His 96-year-old son, Dick Haroon. Dick, it is such a pleasure to have you with us. As you look back when you were a youngster, did your father talk about winning the first Indianapolis race? I believe it was known as the sweepstakes back then.
Well, yes, Dad talked quite a bit about it, as a matter of fact. He went into great detail about how he built the car that he won the race with, and that was a kind of a story in itself. He raced other cars and the rest of the season, and he won 44 races in 19
back during the last century, as a matter of fact.
1910.
Right, the year before he won, because he retired after he won the Indy. But now here's a question for you, Dick, because there's a lot of those conspiracy theorists who say, oh, wait a minute, Ray didn't complete the 500 miles. Now, what did he tell you about the controversy? Because it took him a couple of days before they crowned your father champion.
Well, I don't know exactly what Dad had many opinions on that, but that's something he never talked to me about. And I don't understand that, but I've, of course, read books and stories and articles from different authors, and I don't really believe that he didn't win it. I think he did the job right.
Absolutely.
And won the race.
Absolutely. Dick, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate your time. Marty, it is unbelievable. We have the son of the original winner here with us today.
And you know what, Brent? It's his dad's face is on the Borg-Warner trophy. It doesn't matter what anybody else says.
You got that right.
Thank you, Dick. That was just amazing. All right, let's get ready for the restart. We had 4 waiver rounds. Rahal, Kanaan, Schechter, Rice. That gives us a total of 18 cars on the lead lap. Castroneves and Will Power are a lap down for Team Penske. Up front, it's Franchitti, Servia, Andretti, Carpenter. They were the ones that pitted before the yellow came out. Here they come through. 4 fans on their feet, and we're going back to green flag racing. Whoa, they're going to try 4 wide. Oh, that attenuator was so close. Does everybody make it through? Hang on. Coming down the backstretch, it's Franchitti. I got to catch my breath after that. I'm sorry, that was close, especially that one coming down the front stretch towards the attenuator. It is Franchitti right there as we go on board with Marco Andretti. Andretti right now in 4th position.
Car in front of him right now, Oriol Servia with the Newman Haas team. He wants to get past him. The car in front of Oriol Servia, the number 3 machine of Helio Castroneves, is a lap down. His goal right now, Eddie, is to get going a little quicker and get past Dario Franchitti, who's in front of him, so he can get himself back in the lead lap.
It's going to be a miracle for him to get a lap back. The car just does not seem fast enough today. They've got to be very careful. You saw them driving through all that paper. If any of that paper gets on one of your radiators, the temperatures start to climb. And these things are always run as efficient as possible, so they don't have extra cooling just hanging around.
You mentioned the temperature. It's about 85 degrees right now outside. And there's Marco Andretti. Let's get an update from Vince.
Well, it's certainly been a struggle for Marco Andretti here at Indianapolis. He barely made it into the field of 33, but he said, hey, if you're in, you can win. And it hasn't taken him long to get up toward the front. Now running in the top 5. Certainly a beneficiary of the timing of that last yellow. He was already on pit road. He said to his father, Michael, on the radio, whew, I think we got lucky on that one. We'll see if his luck holds, Marty.
He started 27th. Right now he is shown running in the 3rd position. Marco Andretti, could he win for the 2nd time for the Andretti family? It was 1969 when Grandpa Mario turned the trick.
The car that's 2nd on your track, we mentioned a moment ago with Helio Castroneves and the Shell Pennzoil machine trying to time it right. Will he get it done this time? He does. He gets his lap back.
So he is now at the tail end of the lead lap, and boy, would he like to see a yellow right now.
He's one of those drivers that are hoping for the yellow as long as it's not him.
And he's actually pulling away a little bit, because remember, we mentioned the fact that he was a lap down. Will Power is still a lap down in 23rd position. You're wondering where Ryan Briscoe is? He is running in the 9th spot. Franchitti leads this race. Scott Dixon for Target Ganassi Racing is in 5th. So it's been the red car's day so far.
But that was a very strong statement from Helio Castroneves to go after the leader, pass him, and try to get the lap back. That's somebody that just will not give up.
Vince, what are you hearing from the number 3
car? One of the issues with Helio Castroneves throughout the earlier stages of this race has been tire wear. They've been changing the balance of the car to try to handle it. Ryan Briscoe has had a similar problem. They fed off the information from Briscoe to make those adjustments to Helio's car. They feel like they've got a much better handle on it now, and that's why you're seeing the power from Helio Castroneves.
He's out in front of the field, albeit at the tail end of the lead lap in 19th position, but he is maintaining that spot. And that's exactly what he needs to do until the next yellow comes out.
And the first 3 are pulling away from Marco Andretti.
What's happening right now for Franchitti, he doesn't have the clear run that he did before when he was leading, so maybe his car's not going to work as efficiently through the turns. And what ends up happening with that, you're going to have Oriol Servia, the number 2 machine, the blue car on your screen right there, starting to work to get a little closer.
And something about Oriol Servia, guys, he has yet to use his push to pass.
He's going for a pass right now.
And here he goes, side by side with the 10 car of Dario Franchitti.
Oh, and Franchitti was so high to the wall to get a nice run to get 3-3. But that push to pass gives the drivers a few hundred extra RPM, a little bit more horsepower. Lasts for a time enough for them to get past the car that's in front.
So the man from Pals, Catalunya, Spain is out in front for Newman Haas Racing. They've never won the 500. They've sat on the pole. They finished 2nd. Could they win today?
Which of the three drivers from the front row has taken the lead here today at the Indy 500? Oriol Servia from Spain is the third, and he is now our leader. But meanwhile, Danica Patrick is on the move. Vince Walsh, what's the latest?
Well, it's amazing, Brent. She's currently running 10th, but twice in this race she has been victimized by the ill-timed yellow flags just prior to her pit stops.
She is somebody, of course.
Man, it's the Indy 500. If we can stretch that fuel for one more lap to pit, it makes a huge difference. Huge. Just frustrates me to work hard and see 30 cars in front of me.
Well, there's not 30 cars in front of her right now, guys. She's running 10th. George Klotzer, strategist, just told me a moment ago, I think we can make it on 2 more stops, but it's going to be close. It could come down to the wire for Danica.
All right, Vince, we'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, our pole sitter, Tagliani, has slipped away. Remember, he was one of our early leaders. He is now down to 13th, trailing the leader by 13 seconds, Jamie.
He's been saying he's running hot, high oil temperatures on the last pit stop. The guys in the booth were asking what exactly was happening. They removed this right side inlet blocker. Basically, it restricts airflow. You take it off, the air comes in, cools the engine down, but at the same time, it costs you speed, and that's exactly what's happening. He's dropped down to 12. Brent?
This indeed is the Olympics of automobile racing as you take a look at those who have led here today. From New Zealand, from Scotland, now from Spain. What's missing? Well, we've even had Hildebrand slip into the lead, our first rookie here today. We'll be right back.
Our Helicam coverage is brought to you by GoDaddy.com. The view from high above the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as we are now 76 laps to go in the 100th anniversary edition of the greatest spectacle in racing. Oriol Servia is our race leader by a full second, and you can see from that shot he has put Helio Castroneves back 1 lap down. He's running in 19th. He's the second car in line. Third car in line is second place, Dario Franchitti, but we've noticed during the break he's been struggling with his car, actually having to downshift. But let's check in on a guy that we talked about at the beginning of the race. Back in 11th position, Charlie Kimball. He is the man that is racing with diabetes.
I don't expect my diabetes to affect my race at all. The length of the race makes it more challenging, but I have the utmost confidence in not only my healthcare team, my doctors, my nutritionists, but also in my pit crew. You know, they've given me the tools I need in the race car to not only monitor, but manage my diabetes actively. Hopefully I won't have to, but they're there as backup plans, and if I need them, I've got them.
He is 10.9 seconds behind the race leader right now. Let's get an update, Doc. What are you hearing from down in pit lane?
Marty, he began the day with a blood sugar of 200, which is exactly where he wanted to be. About lap 40, it went to 225. Just past the halfway point, it's at 250 and flat. Now, they don't want it to get to 300 or above. If it starts going up, here's what's going to happen. Jerry Bouchard here, who's the left front tire changer, will come in during a pit stop. He will change the left front tire. Then he will take this flex pin, which is a syringe. He will dial in how much insulin the doctor tells him to put in. He will pull that off, reach up, and stab Charlie in the left thigh through the fire suit and inject the insulin if need be. Now, how did he learn to do that? Well, he got a 1-hour tutorial in a hotel room this week practicing injecting an orange. He said, that's the only practice I've got, and I hope I do okay when they need me during the race. Right now, though, 250 and flat.
And you should have seen Eddie cringe when you were doing that demonstration, Doc. You can't imagine what that is like. Look at this action going on down the front straightaway. The 82 of Tony Kanaan and Will Power. Remember, Power is a lap down. He's running in 21st position. Kanaan is 12th, 13 seconds behind the race lead. 2 of the 3 Penske cars, 1 lap down. If I'd have told you that, would you believe it? I don't think anybody would. Oriol Servia, the first time anyone from Spain has ever led the Indianapolis 500. We're going to go side by side. He's got an 1/8 of a second lead over Dario Franchitti. Our telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. The great thing about side-by-side, you never missed that lead change, our 14th, as Dario Franchitti is now back in front of Oriol Servia with Scott Dixon 3.3 seconds. In case you did step away to the refrigerator, let's show you one more time.
This is a perfect pass. He had been studying for about 10 laps, goes by them. But what's interesting is all of a sudden the car behind Servia lost almost 4 miles an hour on that lap. For some reason, Franchitti's car was not working as well behind Servia's as it was behind Dixon, Scott.
And all through that run, we were listening to Franchitti, and he was off the throttle all the time, and then he must have made some changes inside the car with the weight jacker and also the roll bar adjustments because the car is now starting to come around. We also mentioned that cars change over a fuel load. Maybe his is better at the end.
While we got a moment, remember we asked you at the beginning of the broadcast which of the following drivers would finish in the highest position in the Indianapolis 500 in our Sports Nation poll. We'll reveal the answer for you now. 38% think Marco Andretti, 29% for Danica, 12% for Alex Tagliani, and Tony Kanaan, 20%. Marco Andretti running 4th right now. Oh, you can, but the poll's already closed. Let's go back up front because Dario Franchitti and Scott Dixon, they have been dominating today as there goes and pass around Alex Tagliani. Let's check in with Jamie Little.
And Chip Ganassi, the owner of the 9 and the 10, running 1 and 3 right now. He's been to victory lane here 3 times. Chip, what is your assessment on how you guys are running right now?
Jamie, there's a lot of fast cars out there right now. I mean, you can see nobody's pulling a big gap or, you know, putting any room between them and anybody else, so it's anybody's race.
Right now, Scott Dixon running just fine. Dario Franchitti saying he's struggling on straight line speed just a little bit. Marty?
Well, but the guy who's really struggling is the guy that we saw getting past there. That was Alex Tagliani, our pole sitter, as he is going to go a lap down. He is 17th right now, so his car has gone away because of that change that Jamie talked about.
Yes, absolutely. And you have to remember that these cars are very finely tuned aerodynamic devices. You can't be banging away on the back of something and expecting it to be as fluid as they are when they're intact. He obviously has a problem, and they're just trying to get all the speed they can out of him.
So there is Dan Wheldon as he has peeled off. Jamie?
Dan Wheldon's car pretty good. He was actually getting frustrated that last stint there with his own teammate Townsend Bell. He's saying, guys, this is the 500. I'm not going to give it up. You see him make a turn of front wing, 4 tires. It sounded like he stalled it, guys. That cost him a couple seconds. Dan Wheldon down and away.
A man on the run right now is Kanaan. He came back from that pit stop he had that was almost out of sequence in that yellow, and he just did a 2:21, which makes him the fastest car on the track right now.
And just to put a period on Alex Tagliani's story, his last lap, folks, 216 miles an hour. That's why he's falling back. Jamie?
And Oriol Servia right there in his pit box after practice on Friday, guys. He had a slight oil leak. They didn't get to run many laps. He's blocked there. That was a good stop. They're getting the job done on pit road. 8.9 seconds to change 4 tires.
Dario Franchitti now making his way down to pit road. There you saw the 2 cones. That signals where you have to be 60 miles an hour, and it's a long way down that front straight.
Get them all done, guys. Nice and smooth.
Heard the call. A lot of changes coming. Jamie?
And you heard him right there. Chip Ganassi is the strategist on the box as he makes the drive all the way down pit road, pulls into his box. You heard him say they're going to make some changes to keep up as the temperature continues to climb. The wind continues to gust on the back stretch. They're going to make a front wing adjustment. Let's go to Doc.
4 tires for Tony Kanaan, and what an effort TK has put in today from 26th to 6th at the beginning of the race. The blocking on pit road back to 24th. He lost a lap and now being shown in the top 5. One more stop before the checkers for TK.
Yeah, I think he's passed more cars than anybody else on the track. Unfortunately, he's had to do it twice because of what you described, Doc, that problem on pit road. The red car back out for the number 10 of Dario Franchitti as he rejoins the race. We have 62 laps to go. And again, the race leader right now is JR Hildebrand, the rookie. And there he is as we're on board. He still has to make his stop.
When you talk to JR, he's very methodical. His mind acts like an engineer.
Vince?
Danica Patrick, they've made front wing adjustments, stagger adjustments, just trying to get her car strong and balanced for the stretch run.
She had worked her way into the top 10. This time, the yellow does not catch her out. Find out where she shakes out when she rejoins the field. And here comes JR Hildebrand. the rookie for Panther Racing. Rick, let's send it your way.
Well, what a great race so far for JR Hildebrand. You can't say he's led under green flag conditions too much with the exception of that last lap as everybody's doing pit stop. Now he comes in. They've been very happy with the way it was running. Early on, it was loose at the top end of the fuel stint. As it would go, it would get better. They've been telling him that he's been running with the leaders and to stay with it. Doc?
Charlie Kimball making a pit stop, a flawless stop, 4 tires. He said the car is stable, his blood sugar is stable, not rising, still 250 and flat, just trying to get 200 laps in the day and get some experience and make history as a diabetic.
What a great story, and Charlie Kimball doing a great job right now as we have 61 laps remaining. We're working lap 140. There is John Andretti. He has been solid all day long on the lead lap. Bertrand Baguette, you also saw Will Power. Baguette making his stop. Rick?
Boy, what a race for Bertrand Baguette. Remember, he ran his first race last year. He's been doing patience, doing very well. You see him going away. Meanwhile, just up the way, you've got Will Power, who's had problems with his brakes, but seems to have solved that problem. Now his job is to motor around and try to get the best finish he possibly can. Remember, he's leading the points coming into this race.
And every driver out there will tell you today's not about points. Today is about the Indianapolis 500. They want the milk. They want the trophy. And right now, Dario Franchitti is back out in front. Let's go back and we'll show you where Scott Dixon lost some time on pit road.
If you can get it.
So a little slow on the wing adjustment. He gets back out. He is third place, 6.6 seconds behind his teammate. Our telecast presented by GoDaddy.com.
The 100th anniversary of the Indianapolis 500. Telecast presented by GoDaddy.com. Brought to you by Weight Watchers Online for Men. Finally, losing weight clicks. And Priority Mail flat rate boxes, only from the Postal Service, a simpler way to ship.
What a great crowd today for the 100th anniversary of the Indianapolis 500. You're looking at race leader Dario Franchitti, and a couple of laps ago, if you were watching on side by side, he came oh so close to the wall. Take another look.
Tells you how hard you're driving, even when you're leading right up to the wall. Can you get paper in between the wall and the wheel, Eddie? I'm not too sure that you can.
Let's ride on board with him. This could get interesting.
That's called getting cozy to the wall, making a nice large arc, getting down to the inside of the turn. You do that because your car may have a little bit of understeer, but very impressive. He is driving as hard as he can, using up every inch of the road.
What is bad news for everybody else at the race is he's leading doing that, and if he tunes that out, he's going to go quicker still, and he's done laps by himself.
Trouble, crash. It's out. It's the 77 of Alex Tagliani, and the dream of Sam Schmidt Motorsports is over. The problem that they had cooling the oil has now led to this, as he becomes our sixth caution.
Get down. If you can, pull it down.
Heartbreak for Tags and for that man right there, Sam Schmidt.
Eddie, we've all had that sort of thing happen to us, whether it's here at Indianapolis or other races, and there's just no worse feeling.
That's true, but they can go home with their head held high. They came here with a new team, got the pole, and ran very strong. I think they have a lot of good things to build on for the future of Sam's team.
Slowly making his way down the backstretch now, and there he is on the outside of JR Hildebrand.
This is just not the place to be today. I was talking before about the restarts because I think at the end, the one place you do not want to be turning into turn 1 and 2 will be the high side. And everybody's going to get very aggressive. And I have not seen one car make it around the high side today.
And that's been the issues, and that's why all the drivers were not in favor of the double file restarts. And as the marbles start to get onto the track, that's going to become more of an issue. let the car get too high going through the turn.
You see the disappointment on Sam Schmidt's face. The dream, it was great until just that moment.
Well, Sam still has another car in the field with Townsend Bell, and also an association with Dan Wheldon with Brian Herta's team, so he still has a couple of other opportunities to have his name associated with a possible winner.
Wheldon in the 4th position. Townsend Bell currently running in 7th. Alex makes it back to the pit.
This yellow is going to pack up everybody, and we're going to see what Kanaan has for the front group.
And we've got 52 laps to go. We talked about it in the pre-race that these double file restarts were going to get a little more, shall we say, aggressive as the people we got into this race.
I really think it will, because as you get closer to the end, that you're not so concerned about what happens to the car that's beside you. And if you put them up into the marbles, well, you're just going to have to say sorry. And you know, drivers, Eddie, I think they're going to really turn around and try and be kind and polite. They've now got the system down. They understand it. But when it comes down to winning a race, and especially the Indianapolis 500, it's going to be every man and woman for himself.
It's always been that way. And what you're seeing is really a very high speed game of chicken or chess, or both of them mixed together, because you cannot put yourself up high turning into turn 1. And the car that's going to be the inside will know that, so they'll just keep on edging you up the track.
And the other thing to take into account also is, do you want to be leading with this new double file restart if it's only a 5-lap run to the end? I'm not sure that's the place you want to be.
It looks to me like the best place to be, if your car is set up right to run in traffic, is 3rd.
Well, you see, Alex has climbed out of the car. Let me correct myself. It is the 5th caution. We've run a total of 27 laps under the yellow so far today. There you see the sweep vehicles out as they'll try and clean up both corners. And they said that in the drivers' meeting to help with that double file restart situation. First car down a lap is Helio Castroneves, and it looks like he may be coming into pit road, as are a number of other cars. Let's send it down to Vince Welch as there's Marco.
Marco Andretti and Helio Castroneves. There's Castroneves, you see there, and Marco Andretti. Now they are debated about whether to not make a front wing adjustment. Marco wanted it, but they didn't feel like they were going to have time to do it. Jamie.
And Sam Schmidt in the 99 box of Townsend Bell. Tom Anderson, the strategist, said, guys, this is an important stop. We have 1 car out of this race. This is our next shot. It's clean.
See a number of stops being completed down on pit road as they come back out. And there is Alex as he is talking it over with his team. With 50 laps remaining here at the 100th anniversary of the Indianapolis 500, we'll go side by side.
Well, ESPN's coverage of Major League Baseball continues on ESPN tonight and Tuesday night. First, catch Sunday Night Baseball, 8 Eastern. Joey Votto and the Cincinnati Reds head to Atlanta to take on Chipper Jones and the Braves. Then on Tuesday, the San Francisco Giants are in St. Louis for a series against Albert Pujols, Matt Holliday, and the Cardinals. Major League Baseball on ESPN Sunday and Tuesday. And right now, Chip Ganassi must feel like he's managing the Philadelphia Phillies pitching staff. He has been dominant here today. Franchitti now has the lead. He has led for 40 laps. Meanwhile, Scott Dixon, the other leader in the Ganassi stable, has led for 66 laps. So that's 106 laps they have led. And the other blue blood of this series was won 15 times. Roger Penske has struggled. Will Power completed a lap without a left rear tire. Helio Castroneves has not been able to get into the mix at the lead. However, do not overlook Ryan Briscoe. He is now sitting in 12th place, about 10.5 seconds back of that lead. As for Danica Patrick, well, she has risen from the depths, and now she is sitting solidly in 7th place. Now remember, this is a driver over the last decade has been able to crash that top 10. She hasn't been able to make the winner's circle yet, but you can count on Danica to be a contender before the day is over. As for Alex Tagliani, one of our lead stories of the day, Jamie Little is with the pole sitter.
It sure was. He and Sam Schmidt get together. They form this team. You guys sit on the pole, but you had problems today, Alex. Your right front was worn severely on that last stop. Did that have anything to do with getting into the wall?
Well, we all of a sudden we kind of lost the rear of the car. The car became very, very neutral, and so I had to change all the tools I had with me in the car, like the weight jacker, the shocks, everything, and you know, try to protect that rear. And I think we were riding that front really hard, but I think that flat spot was coming into the pits. I locked the tires, so and then pretty much the whole rest of the time, I mean, I was really, really loose. I really couldn't turn the wheel. The car was on the edge, and a couple of bad moments. And the last one, I think Buddy was trying to go on the inside. I touched the gray a bit, and then they pushed me off into the wall.
All right, Alex Tagliani's day is finished. He will sit back and watch his teammates, Townsend Bell and Dan Wheldon, go for the win. Marty?
Thank you, Jamie. Let's check in on our Firestone lap leaders today. We've had a total of 7 different leaders. Scott Dixon leads the way with 66. Frank Keedy, 41. Tags led for 20. You see the rest on down through the line. We've had 5 cautions for 31 laps now. Danica Patrick is the second biggest mover since the start of the race, picking up 18 spots. Vince, what are you hearing?
Well, the one issue for Danica has just been the timing of the pit stops in regards to the falling yellow flags, and that's set her pit stop strategy and fuel strategy off a bit.
Well, it looks like everybody's going to have to come in one more time.
Yep, that's true. Everybody has to come in one more time, but you're just going to have to come in about, I'd say, 10 laps earlier than the rest so they can catch yellow. But, oh well, that's just the way it is. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. I just wanted to get you up on track position.
Yeah, well, it's nice to be up in cleaner air. I mean, I was able to run nice and flat. The car was flying around.
Danica Patrick currently in the top 10. There's a car in front of her. There to her left in the blue car is John Andretti. It's her teammate a couple of laps down. He's going to work with her to let her go by.
Let's get ready to go back to green flag race. Remember, we talked about the fact that these side-by-side starts and restarts are going to get trickier as we progress. You heard the call. We're racing again in Indianapolis.
Dixon got hung out because the car in front of him was slow. He's now back in the mix and trying to defend.
And there goes Frank Keedy.
Dario gets a huge jump. Oriol Servia looked like the car that was slow to get off the bar, and it has cost everybody but Dario. Look at that, 3 wide through the corner. Down on the apron, this isn't going to work. Somebody's going to have to back up and take the warm-up lane.
I have never, ever seen that being done.
Is that the 98 of Dan Wheldon? I could not quite see the number, but it sure did look like his painting. There he is. No, he's back a little bit further there, so he has dropped back a few spots.
So these cars have been 2 abreast for the whole first lap after this restart.
And weaving in and out, and a guy on the outside we've seen the last couple of turns is Townsend Bell, and he's just going, pardon me, excuse me, and getting through.
And Graham Rahal, folks, is really taking advantage. There he is in the red, white, and blue 38. Move him up into the 4th position.
P3. No pressure from behind. You're +3 to Dixon.
And look who was just behind him coming to your screen. Tony Kanaan. Should be no surprise. He never gives up. He's a fighter, and I don't think you can count this guy out.
Let's reset the top 5. It's Frank Keedy, Servia, Dixon, Rahal, Tony Kanaan. Dan Wheldon is back in 6th.
A Tony Kanaan in a fast car Indy, when he has confidence, is not a good thing to have in your rearview mirrors.
Well, you saw Dixon take a peek on the inside of that 38 of Graham Rahal. Could not get it done, and in fact, it broke his momentum. We've got yellow flag on the racetrack and a 2-car crash. It is the 99 of Townsend Bell and the 6 of Ryan Briscoe. He was the top running Penske car in 11th position. Bell was running in 10th. And now our 6th caution.
And we had just seen Townsend Bell in the 99 be very aggressive on that restart.
Oh, that was a real pity. Townsend Bell was having a great race.
Wheel is off. Ryan Briscoe. He had that crash in practice the morning of pole day, and from that moment on, this team seemed to be playing catch-up. And it looked like here, at late stages of the race, they were starting to sort it out
until this happened.
And in teams like that, when one thing goes wrong, it could almost have
Helio Castroneves has a problem. What happened here? Castroneves has been down a lap for the last 50-plus laps. He's shown in 21st position, and he is making his way down pit road.
What a horrible race for Penske.
So he'll get a new tire, but Will Power is 1 lap down. He is shown in 16th position. Helio back out.
To your point, Eddie, how often do you see that with Penske?
I have never. I mean, I was there when they. Here, let's watch what happens.
Now on the outside, Townsend Bell driving down towards the center of the turn, towards the apex, really trying to drive it down there just a bit too much, and ends up getting locked in with the 6th car of Ryan Briscoe, and Ryan Briscoe really was just unfortunately taken out in that scenario.
What Townsend Bell did not want to do, and he reacted maybe a little bit too severely. He didn't want to be too up high because he knew there was no grip, and he just charged down the bottom, and there's nowhere. There was nowhere for Briscoe to go.
Still there, still there.
For a moment, they almost saved it.
Almost doesn't work around here.
Really thought they were going to go forward. Unfortunately, with Townsend Bell going out, that is another Sam Schmidt car, the Herbalife machine of Townsend Bell.
And there is Townsend as he climbs from the cockpit of the car.
Did you see, Scott, how hesitant he was of trying to stay up high, how he came down really aggressively?
Vince, Danica's in.
Danica Patrick, you heard the radio from her just a few moments ago. They needed to make another stop. Their car is getting better and better. No chassis adjustments at all for Danica. Rick.
Will Power brings the car in. Remember, he's part of that Penske crew that's been having such a hard time today. He had his problems early, but he's so far down, it's going to be very difficult to do anything in terms of place.
All right, Rick, thank you. As they come back out, there is what's left of the 2 cars. Townsend Bell, his best finish was a 4th back in 2003. Now we wanted to find out what happened to Helio Castroneves. I'll give you an idea right here. There it is. I mean, again, there it looks like he ran over something, cutting the tire. So we're going to step aside for just a moment. We've got 41 laps to go. We'll talk about how this changes fuel strategy after this message from our ABC stations. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we are down to 39 laps to go, still under our 6th caution for the 2-car crash involving Townsend Bell and Ryan Briscoe. There is Townsend's car on the hook heading back to the garage area. Let's take a look at this one more time we go on board with Ryan Briscoe.
The 99 on the right-hand side, Townsend Bell. He's up on the high side. He wants to work his way down towards the apex. Probably does not know that Ryan Briscoe in the 6th machine that you're riding with, the Penske car, is down there. He should have been told that by his spotter. The 2 cars collide, and then obviously the tires start to rub, and they draw each other into the wall. Now, this is Bell just a little bit earlier on, got mixed up in traffic ahead of him.
You okay?
So he probably just touched the wall slightly with that right
Inside, hold your line, inside, still
What happened here is he got flustered on the restart.
But his spotter is also telling him that somebody's on the inside. And he still goes down there.
He said, hold your line.
Yeah, I don't think you can blame the spotter on that.
So the cleanup continues here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We now have 39 laps remaining here at the greatest spectacle in racing. And that'll be a fun series to watch. Right now we have some interesting strategy unfolding. But boy, it's been a rough day for Roger Penske, and there he is. His team has struggled. I mean, he has said many, many times, you cannot make mistakes in this race. Back early in the event, this was Will Power. Watch the left rear tire. The changer saying, don't go. He went. Then Ryan Briscoe ends up in a 2-car crash just recently here, bringing out our 6th caution with Townsend Bell. And just before that, there is
Helio Castroneves running over some debris and ending with a cut tire. Got some cars coming down pit road now, and this is going to help that strategy. And Dario Franchitti has pulled in, Jamie Little.
And all the other cars were watching the 10 to see if he would pit, and they wanted to come as well. They're going to fill it as full as they can get it. Remember, they ran out of fuel on their qualifying lap last week. It's key to get it filled up here. They're still going to be a couple laps short, Doc.
Standing with Roger Penske. Roger, normally when you're thinking about Team Penske at this place, you're talking about perfection and victory. Today, all three of your teams have had an issue. Can you put it in perspective for us?
Well, it's a tough day, but, you know, we got to execute. I said that earlier before we started the race, and I think this unfortunate accident with Briscoe, because he'd worked up nicely. Helio cut a tire, but again, we got some fast cars. Ganassi executing here. We'll see what happens at the end, but this is a great place, but a tough place to win.
Roger Penske, you're putting it in perspective here. Still got 2 bullets to be able to maybe get a shot before this is over.
We come back to green flag racing. We'll talk about those guys that pitted right before going back to green. It's Oriol Servia leading the way with Graham Rahal. That's right, Graham Rahal, the 22-year-old in second place. Dixon, here we go down the front straightaway. Rahal wants the lead. Look at the slicing and dicing through the field. And Rahal's going to take it. The last time that was said at this place was 1986.
Smooth and fast, smooth and fast.
Servia.
This car out there, just hit your marks, hit your marks.
Graham's radio, his spotter telling him, hit your marks. Side by side through the corner. That is Thomas Scheckter as he moves into the 4th position. Right behind him in 5th is Tony Kanaan. So it's Rahal, Servia, Dixon, Scheckter, Kanaan. And you're saying, wait a minute, what happened to Franchitti? Well, remember, those guys that stopped, they're trying to make this in this last stop.
And it's feasible. And there goes Dan Wheldon underneath Tony Kanaan. Dan Wheldon has got his foot on the peg right now, trying to make up some time.
Wheldon in that 5th position, 1.6 seconds behind the lead. He has 7 push to pass left. Let's explain that.
Has 5.
Let's explain that for anybody that tuned in late, Scott.
There again, a button on the steering wheel. Push the Honda, push to pass. You end up getting a few hundred extra RPMs, more horsepower, and you get 15 tries at that throughout the event, and it will last for 18 seconds. You have to really use them conservatively because you know you're going to have to. You want those towards the end of the race, Eddie.
But it's not a magic button. You just don't develop wings and pick up and fly past the car. You have to have everything in perfect order, get right behind him in the toe, and it just gives you that extra oomph to get by somebody.
Of the 13 cars on the lead lap, the person who has the most push to pass remaining, Oriol Servia. He has 12. Graham Rahal, our leader, has 5. And second place, Servia is closing on him again. There is Dad, Bobby Rahal. Now, Rahal's got his own car in this fight, and that's Bertrand Baguette. Baguette not in the top 15. Yes, he is. He's in 9th place. Let me correct that. As he's got a good run going, but right now he's got one eye on Baguette and one on his son. Rick, let's get an update. What's Dad thinking about?
I think he's happy on both counts right now. It's been interesting. He's got just enough time he can watch Graham go by. After Graham goes by, his head whips back, and he looked for Bertrand Baguette to see how he's doing, realizing Baguette, who's slowly, peaceably gone up and is running in 9th place right now. But the thing is, his son is leading the Indy 500. You've got to think that's weighing pretty heavily on him right now, thinking about that. Doc?
Just before Graham Rahal climbed in the car today, I asked him, I said, do you think when you hear the Rahal name announced, do you think of pride or pressure with that name? He said, you know, the pride is when I go to the museum and I see my dad's car and see how he won it in all the pictures. He said, but on race day in this race car, it's all about pressure. Being a Rahal has expectations, and today I need to start living up to them.
And as you finish up, Doc, everybody saw Scott Dixon get around Oriol Servia for second place. Here comes Tony Kanaan. He is going around Servia. Move Tony into the 3rd position in those oh-so-familiar colors from 1965. The number 82, the same paint scheme driven by Jimmy Clark when he won the first rear-engine win.
And you can tell the patience is going out the window. Everybody's taking every pass they can, and they're trying to line themselves up for those last 20 laps. And I think Kanaan is on a roll.
We have 30 laps remaining in this race. Doc, give us an update on Tony Kanaan.
Tony Kanaan has passed a total of 49 cars tires for position. He just told the team, he said, you don't have to pay me twice, but I've gone to the back twice and come to the front twice. He said, you guys have me a great car. And oh, by the way, Tony said in a quiet moment this week, he told his 4-year-old son, Leonardo, if I win this thing, I might retire. And then he thought about it and said, you know what, I want to win this race, but I don't want to retire. I hope Leonardo doesn't remember what I said.
We would forgive him if he did. Look at Graham Rahal. He's under attack right now. Battle for the lead, heading into one. Here comes Scott Dixon. He retakes the lead. It'll be our 19th lead change between 8 different leaders.
And when a car passes you going into one, you lose momentum, and Kanaan has to take advantage of that and get as close as he can to Rahal.
The top 4 was in your screen right there. As there is Scott Dixon. He is out in front and the laps are winding down. Our telecast presented by GoDaddy.com.
What a finish we've gotten score. The Iceman leads, but Tony Kanaan, who's never won the 500, is on the move. And then Graham Rahal, 25 years ago, his daddy Bobby, a winner here. And oh yes, Danica Patrick on the move. She is all the way up to 6th. Come on back. It's going to be a furious finish at the Indianapolis 500 as they celebrate their centennial.
Graham Rahal has pulled in for his final pit stop. Doc?
Graham Rahal, final stop of the day. He said this is go time now. Slight air pressure change, perfect pit stop down and away. They said drive it and go get him. Jamie.
Oriol Serbia in the 2 says he has more understeer than ever. Front wing adjustment, there it is. 4 tires, fill it up. This car has been fast. A little bit extended, 8.9-second pit stop for Oriol Serbia.
Dan Wheldon also made his pit stop. Here comes Scott Dixon. He peels off from the race lead. Coming your way, Jamie Little.
And they have 2 different sequences going on right now. Dario Franchitti, of course, hit it just a little while ago. Scott Dixon needed to fill it up here. He too saying his car is okay. We're going to have to wait and see. They make last-minute adjustments. If he says yes, make a wing adjustment. On the front, they're going to fill it up. 4 tires. Let's see if they go to the front. As you see the probe go in, the onboard camera is on. Scott Dixon, who has dominated this race today. They go around to the back. It's a quick stop. He's down and away. Marty.
And as we check out on track, guess who the new race leader is for the 2nd time in her IndyCar career? Danica Patrick. Remember, she made her pit stop back on lap 159. She is still going to have to stop. Vince, what do you got on the fuel situation?
Danica Patrick is about 4 to 5 laps shy on fuel. She cannot make it to the end, certainly under green conditions, but she is out front and they're trying to get her to push as far as she can, to build as much of a lead as she can, to give her a little bit of extra time to come in for that splash, as you see her father TJ trying to celebrate the fact his daughter is in first place.
She has 9 laps in hand in the fuel department over Thomas Scheckter. Bertrand Baguette in 3rd, also pitted with her on lap 159. And there is Ed Carpenter as he has brought it in for his final stop. He was running in the 6th position when he pulled it in. He's made the service stop. He's back out. And we have 20 laps to go here at Indianapolis.
It's game time.
Game time, but for Danica Patrick, she really can't throttle back and start to run a slower pace because there is still so many fast cars in this race right now. They will catch her up very, very quickly. What she really needs now, Eddie, is something to happen on track in a yellow that would allow her to stay out front and conserve fuel and then have enough to go to the end once the restart happens.
The first time she led the 500 was back in 2005. Today is the 2nd, and remember, she was not all that pleased with her car.
Vibration, getting a little hard.
That's a vibration.
What'd you say there?
Vibration.
That copy. Is it bad enough to come in?
No. If you ask me, it's no. You know, tires do pick up a little bit of rubber, and you start to get an
Yellow
imbalance.
comes out right now. We're in pretty good shape here.
Okay.
She has run such a good, clean race, and to find herself in the lead with just 18 laps to go,
is one heck of a drive.
She led 23 total laps here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. She stays out on the track this time.
Sure, I just ran over a little bump, but the front end is going to cure.
Said she ran over something. I couldn't quite catch the tail end of it. 17 laps to go. Her lead is 1.7 seconds over Thomas Scheckter. But remember, Scheckter is going to have to stop.
And right now she's doing 217.5 miles an hour. Scheckter's running just over 219. Bertrand Baguette
right now,
220. So they're going to catch her surely.
You heard
next couple laps.
We heard 10 laps away. That means they're going to need fuel with 7 to go. The guy we better keep our eyes on, remember Dario Franchitti? He stopped right before we went back to green flag racing. He is in 5th place right now. He pitted on lap 164, and they think they can go the distance.
And that was a very confident call from their side to take him out of the lead and have him come in for fuel. And it's working out their way right now.
Let's get more from Vince Welch.
Scott, you were just talking about the fact that her speeds were not up to snuff in regards to those that are chasing her. Remember, Danica Patrick had to start 25th today. They had to make the decision, as you look at her husband Paul looking on, they had to make the decision in regards to a downforce level. Give her enough downforce that made her car stable enough to get through traffic. But they knew that could hurt her once she needed the sheer speed. And we might be seeing that right now.
Great observation. And in that situation, she's doing everything that she can. Her foot would be flat on the gas and driving as hard as she can.
But she's about to get gobbled up. When that big group catches up to her, they're about 2 to 3 miles an hour faster than she is.
15 laps to go. Her lead over Bertrand Baguette is now 1.3. Thomas Scheckter is now 3rd. Baguette has gotten around him.
Hang in there.
Scheckter is 3rd by 2 seconds.
Second place car, Bertrand Baguette, is a car that's owned by Bobby Rahal. We talked about that before in conjunction with David Letterman.
Scott Dixon is just on a lap at 223.
And to give you an idea, Danica's last lap, 218. So unless the yellow comes out, this could be a replay of 2005 when Dan Wheldon tracked her down.
And Marty, you talked about the situation with fuel. Dario Franchitti, he actually pitted on about lap 164. JR Hildebrand, who drives for Panther in the National Guard machine, also pitted on that same lap.
They are running 5th and 6th right now. Franchitti 3.2 seconds behind. Hildebrand 8.4.
And Baguette has her in his crosswires.
Baguette from Belgium, one of 13 different countries represented in this year's Indianapolis 500. 11 Americans, and the most famous American is about to be overtaken because Baguette is closing.
It'll probably happen down the back straight. He just did a lap at 222.
They both pitted on lap 159, so they're both in the same position. They cannot go the distance if it stays green.
Eddie, you know what this position's like for Danica Patrick right now. Her foot is flat on the gas. Heart rate is racing right now. She's pushing as hard as she can, and she's driving into the turn, hitting her marks, and just going, come on, I need more speed.
These things will only go so fast. Once you get the throttle all the way down, that's it. That's all they have. And we explained very well that she has a lot of downforce in her car right now, but she's doing, I think it's going to happen right about here.
Going for the lead, Bertrand Baguette with 12 laps remaining, and we have our 10th different leader, our 22nd lead change.
A race car driver from Belgium.
And I bet the record book, he might be the first from Belgium. As there's Thomas Scheckter, he has made his final stop. Remember, he was 9 laps fewer on the availability to go the distance than those two in front of him. I'm checking the speeds for Dario Franchitti. He's running a conservative pace right now at 218. He knows that all these cars in front of him have to stop if this race goes.
So he's starting to save fuel already. He's trying to figure out from his pits. They're telling him, save as much fuel as you can, stretch it to the end.
Rick, what have you got on Bertrand Baguette?
Well, the first thing you need to remember with Bertrand Baguette is he has not raced since last year. He has not been in the series this year. He came back to run this race and got back in. However, he's been working with Dallara on a simulator. As a result, even though he hasn't gotten real seat time, he's been in that simulator helping to develop it for Dallara, and as a result, has been getting virtual seat time, which plays well. Now, as you said, he pitted on lap 159. Realistically, running this fast, running this hard, he's not very likely to make it to the end.
He finished 22nd in his one and only Indianapolis 500 last year. Right now, he is out in front of Danica Patrick by 0.7 of a second, and Danica has brought it into pit lane. Vince?
Come around there.
You hear the radio talking with Danica Patrick to come around the Marco Andretti pit, that of her teammate. She led this race, but the fuel strategy just didn't pay off. The unfortunate timing of the yellow flags costly for Danica as her car continued to get better throughout the day, but a little bit short in the centennial anniversary of the Indianapolis 500.
And the right rear was slow on the tire change. You see side by side with Marco Andretti as they both come out of pit lane. Baguette continues.
10 laps to go. We're down to 10 laps.
And guess who's now cycled through to second place? The 10 car of Dario Franchitti with JR Hildebrand right behind him. Those two do not have to stop.
But it's going to be very tight on fuel, so the one that saves the most fuel, that is the most efficient, I think has got the best chance.
Baguette's last lap, 2:16, 2:21 for Dario.
And the Panther machine with JR Hildebrand, the rookie, driving that car. Remember, Panther has finished second here twice. They certainly have a good car. He has done a very nice job today keeping his nose clean and experiencing the Indianapolis 500, especially with the difficult restart procedures, Eddie.
But he's a full 9 miles off Dixon that's running behind him.
He gets around Alex Lloyd, who is in 18th position, now 2 laps down.
So is Panther gambling? If they're now running 215 miles an hour, have they calculated that he can run 215 without having to come in? Are they going to take a shot at it that way?
That's what it looks like. And the two teammates, Danica and Marco, are, looks like running together. If they do that in the right manner, they can catch up.
Well, but they need help because they're 39 seconds behind the race leader without something happening, because you know Dario Franchitti can go the distance. Unless she gets a yellow, both of them aren't going to get it done.
You never give up in this place because you never know what's going to happen.
Well, is Franchitti going to make the distance, because it is somewhat close? Is Hildebrand with that real slow speed? Is he maybe doing the right approach with the Panther team to maybe go on that slower speed throughout here to 16 that last time by?
7 laps remaining. Baguette's lead over Franchitti is 5.8 seconds. The last lap for Baguette, 2:18. The last lap for Franchitti, 2:08.
Aha, they've caught on. They know they probably can't make it.
2:08.
Remember, at this stage of the race last year, we were in fuel economy run mode then. Remember, it was the 10 and the 4. Dan Wheldon was in the 4 last year. Whoa, look at that move. Getting around the slower traffic, as that was Scheckter and Danica. Now that is for position 11th and 12th. And that was Charlie Kimball, I believe, that they got around. Yes.
Dario's pace has really dropped off. And Bertrand Baguette is just at a 2:18.
His lead is up to 8.2 seconds. Could there be an issue other than fuel for Dario? We have 6 laps remaining. On board with Charlie Kimball. He has done a magnificent job today. Racing with diabetes. This is the farthest he has ever gone in a race car. He's running 12th right now. Last car on the lead lap, 40 seconds behind the race lead.
Amazing. He didn't just have the dashboard to worry about the engine, had his own engine to worry about, and he's run flawlessly the whole day. 5 laps to go.
And the lead is up to 10 seconds. Bertrand Baguette could make history here, stunning everyone. Dario's last lap, 2:04.9.
Dario is in a full fuel conservation mode.
And what it's allowing is JR Hildebrand to close. Hildebrand is less than 2 seconds behind Dario.
Stick to the fuel number.
They're telling stick to the fuel number.
I do not believe that Bertrand Baguette is going to make it. So right now, you have to expect that he is going to have to come in for a pit stop here shortly.
And I think that's what Franchitti thinks also, because he's almost given up the chase.
4 laps remaining. We hear from pit road that they are laid out for a pit stop for Bertrand Baguette.
Where to go?
Hildebrand has just gotten around Dario Franchitti while we focused here our action on our race leader. So now JR Hildebrand, who stopped at the same time with Dario, is in second place. The rookie could inherit the lead. Here comes Baguette. Baguette is coming down pit road. There'll be 3 laps to go this time by, and JR Hildebrand is going to have the race lead in a nip and tuck battle. Right behind him is Dario Franchitti. Here they come down the front stretch.
And he just did a 2:09, so it looks like he's in fuel conservation mode also.
Franchitti, his last lap was 2:01. He is less than a second behind JR Hildebrand. 3 laps remaining. Let's go back and show you the pass. It was for second place at the time, and now the 23-year-old rookie is in the race lead.
Only at Indy.
Next time by, 2 laps remaining. Rick, give us an update on JR Hildebrand.
Well, let's talk about what happened last year. That's what's significant. Dan Wheldon was driving for Panther at the time. Remember, he pitted early. He saved fuel at the beginning of the stint. As a result, because he saved fuel at the beginning of the stint, Wheldon was able to run fast at the end, at the very end of the race. They've done the same thing with JR Hildebrand. He pitted early, saved fuel at the beginning of the stint, so you have it to run at the end, and that's what he's doing right now. Could he be the next rookie winner of the Indy 500?
His last lap was at 2:16.
Well, Scott Dixon has gotten around, and so has Dan Wheldon. Dario Franchitti is 4th, so his chances look like they have faded for the year. Here comes JR Hildebrand. This time by, the white flag is in hand. 2.5 miles.
Come on, baby, bring it home.
Keep going.
The 23-year-old from Sausalito, California. Listen to the crowd cheer him on.
And how fitting for the National Guard car to win if he can indeed do that. Has he got enough fuel to make it to the end?
Half a lap. He's got half a lap to go, and he's the Indy 500 champion.
Panther Racing, oh so good. They finished second here, twice here. They come again through the final 2 corners. JR Hildebrand.
Careful of traffic.
He's got to get around the lap. Traffic. 100 years. No! He hit the wall. Just like Thomas Schechter.
Keep your foot on the gas.
Dan Wheldon is going to win the race.
Yeah, Dan!
That is unbelievable. Oh, my goodness.
Wheldon, after finishing second the last 2 years, wins when JR Hildebrand hits the wall coming out of 4, just as Schechter did in 2000.
What a tremendous finish. What a drive for Wheldon. I've been saying it all day, that outside lane is a...
I love you so much!
That was Dan Wheldon, if you didn't know. Absolutely incredible finish here at the 100th anniversary of the Indianapolis 500.
Whew. Driving for Brian Herta Motorsport.
Stay out on the track. Stay out on the track.
He becomes the 9th driver with 2 wins. And while he is celebrating, JR Hildebrand is aching inside.
Yeah.
Well done, my man. Well done.
Let's go back and show you what happened.
We talked about being outside the groove, up in the gray. An experienced driver would have just throttled back a little bit and turned around and just got off the gas as you watch Dan Wheldon start to drive by. Look at this.
That's just 2 feet in the wrong place. And it's been happening all day long. He almost won it with 3 wheels.
Can you imagine the feeling that young rookie has?
And here comes the 98 to get past, and look at how close it really was. There is Dan, and there comes Hildebrand coming across the line, and look at the reaction, and John Barnes can't believe it, and neither can the rest of his team.
Oh, how heartbreaking. What a great drive.
Hildebrand just shaking his head, and he still crossed the line in second place.
Now, I'm sure that's a record.
You just won the Indy 500 again.
Let's take a look at Dan Wheldon's team. Look at Brian Herta with the headset. On the right-hand side, fist in the air. And he is with our Jamie Little.
He still can't believe it. He just said unbelievable. He was Dan Wheldon's teammate when he won this race the first time in 2005. Brian, how did you convince this guy you guys could do it together as a team?
Well, I don't know exactly how I convinced him, but Dan Wheldon's the best race car driver at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway probably ever. We're so lucky to have him in our car, and we get great support from William Rast and all of our sponsors, and we just won the Indy 500. Can you believe that? I can't believe, I mean, you know, we came here to win, and we kept saying we're here to win, but we actually won.
Brian Herta, second time at the Indy 500 as a team owner. He wins it with Dan Wheldon, and guys, Sam Schmidt's car is the one that goes to victory lane. He will be in victory lane as well. Rick?
Well, I'm standing by with John Barnes. Yeah, it's your fourth second in a row, but you came so close. What do you have to say about JR Hildebrand today?
Well, I think he was incredible. I think he did a hell of a job. The guys did too. I mean, you know, to come here with a rookie guy and his first Indianapolis 500, you know, he'll rethink turn 4 for a long time, but you know, he put us where we were at. You know, he drove the hell out of that thing all day long, and you know, it just is one of those things. You know, we got to hold our heads up high.
When he made that last pit stop, did you think he was going to be able to make it all the way to the end?
He really had to save fuel, and again, I mean, he put us in a position to win. You know, we told him what fuel number we had to get. It was almost impossible to do, you know, but he did it. You know, and so, you know, he drove the wheels off of it and stuff. I couldn't be prouder of him today.
John Barnes, once again, a little bittersweet. Yeah, he got second place the fourth time in a row, but oh, what it could have been.
And Wheldon now approaching the Honda victory lane. His last pit stop, you heard John talk about, was at lap 177. JR Hildebrand comes across in second. Graham Rahal at age 22 is third, his best finish ever. Tony Kanaan, that win is still eluding him, is fourth. Oriol Servia rounds out the top 5. This is absolutely amazing. Look at Dan, the emotion as he realizes he's back in victory lane.
You know, I had a conversation with Dan just during the week, and he said he's looking for something else to do, some other rides, and he said, you know, I guess what I'm going to end up doing, and you see his wife Susie getting inside the cockpit. He says, I get up every day and I have breakfast, I exercise, and I work hard just towards the future. I do not have another ride for the rest of the year.
And the man down in victory lane is our own Vince Welch.
Dan Wheldon, I'm surprised. It's a good thing he didn't have to drive the car into victory lane because he had such tears coming out. He was wiping his eyes as you see Alex Tagliani lean in and shake the hand and share the emotions of victory lane with Dan Wheldon. Take a look at how Dan Wheldon managed to make it to victory lane. He was running behind the fastest rookie qualifier, JR Hildebrand, when Hildebrand crashed with the lead in turn 4, and Wheldon inherited the lead and the victory at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Dan Wheldon, who won this race in 2005, has won it again. Driving for Alzheimer's. His mother has been recently diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and it has certainly been something that has weighed heavy on the heart of Dan Wheldon. And today, he certainly brings the spirit of his mother to victory lane. She was not able to travel here today to be with him. Remember, Dan Wheldon did not have a full-time ride. He did not have a full-time ride leading into this season. And it's a bit of vindication, I'm sure, for those that would not present him with the opportunity for that full-time ride this season. Tim Manganello, the chairman and CEO of Borg Warner, will place the wreath around the neck of Dan Wheldon. Now, Brian Herta, the team owner, comes in. The tears just streaming down the face of Wheldon. Dan Wheldon is your winner of the 2011 Indianapolis 500, the centennial anniversary victory. Getting a hug from his wife Susie. What a terrific, terrific win for Brian Herta, Steve Newey, the ownership team. Richard Thomas and Dave Forgey about to present the milk to Dan Wheldon. Oh, how sweet it must taste. Brian Herta takes a swig. Now his wife Susie comes up. Everybody enjoying the milk here at Indianapolis in Victory Lane. Guys, Dan Wheldon is so emotional, they could hardly get him to be here to drink the milk. We need to get Dan to the front of the car to do the winner's interview. There's so many people that he's thanking. He's so emotional. Dan, congratulations on winning the Indianapolis 500. I know so many emotions must be going through your mind. What did you think when you came around 4 and saw Hildebrand in the wall?
You know, I was just trying to go as hard as I could. I knew it was the last lap, and they said that a lot of those guys were struggling on fuel, and I just kept pushing. You know, I just want to say thank you, obviously, to my wife for the support through being a part-timer right now. So it's a fantastic achievement to the fans for being here, for Brian Herta and everybody at Brian Herta Autosport that, you know, have just given me such a dream ride, and there's so many other people I want to thank. I want to thank Honda. Honda have always been behind me 110%. There's no organization like Honda. William Rast, I mean, totally my style. It's a great sponsor for me. I feel like a fashionista, so I'm going to be wearing jeans tomorrow night. I know I'm supposed to dress smart, but I'm going to be wearing my William Rast jeans and, you know, Curb Records, Big Machine Records, Forsyth Solutions, IGO. It's been absolutely phenomenal, but I love Indianapolis. I love the people. You know, I love everything about it. The tradition, the history, Firestone. I don't know what to say anymore. I'm not.
Take us back to the moment that you actually saw Hildebrand in the wall and you knew you were going to win the Indianapolis 500.
I just felt a lot of relief. Obviously, I knew it was okay because I could see him moving, but you know, it's an incredible feeling. I've been runner-up the 2 years before this, and I never gave up. I mean, Canard nearly put me in the wall going into 3, which was very, very interesting. But there's a lot of great storylines today, and I want to say hi to my family back home and my mother, and you know, the Alzheimer's Association for giving me the opportunity to represent them. It's just an incredible day.
Congratulations, Dan Wheldon, the winner of the Centennial Anniversary Indianapolis 500.
Taking my kids to Disney, baby. I'm taking my kids to Disney.
You could sense the emotion when he talked about his mom. You heard Vince explain why, and look at that elation as the celebration has just begun for Brian Herta Motorsports and his man, Dan Wheldon, now a 2-time winner of the Indianapolis 500.